Now for a little surprise. For a special occasion I've been saving. Cigars. Take one. No. Fire is good. Fire is good. Yes, fire is our friend. Yes, I'll show you. I'll show you. You see? Yeah. Do you have your cigar? Let me see. All right. Now. Just hold it right there. Now. Don't inhale until the tip glows. Wow!
Welcome to Rabbit in Red Radio, a show that truly needs more cowbell. Here's your hosts, the king of Porn Town and everyone's favorite gimp.
There we go.
The king of Porn Town. He even has a crown and scepter when he sits there as he commands his porn.
Oh God, I can't drink this if you're gonna do that because I'm gonna fucking spit it all over.
It's just gonna be. It's gonna look like the inside of a windshield, like when a bug hits.
Exactly.
Welcome, folks. It is another fine episode of Rabbit and Red Radio. As always, it is Theo, that one weirdo, your co-host, along with producer Mike.
It just seemed appropriate to do the air horn after you did that.
It really did. It felt like a club kind of entry thing, where you'd be like all blinged out and shit in parachute pants.
Amy's watching. She enjoys the cowbell. That's nice to see.
Hello.
Yes.
Always more cowbell.
Yes, that is the.
And he's amazing in Severance, Christopher Walken.
I still have to start that.
And as much as I adore the man, I also know he is very much like in Dune 2. Like, I love that he played the head of the basically the emperor of the universe, and he was so great because it's still him. Like, he's acting, but of course, it's kind of like Pacino once Pacino got older, where it was like, okay, you're playing a part, but there's none of that separation of church and state. You know, everything you do is your Pacino, where he could have been like the emperor of the universe, where Pacino would have been like, I am in charge of a planet named Arrakis, and they have this thing called Dune, which they use for space travel. Could you imagine if they tried to do this without it? No one could.
You're gonna get it's.
And Walken's the same way there. He's like, so tell me, with Walken, he's like, so tell me, what's going on Arrakis? And even like when he confronts Paul, he's like, understand, Paul Atreides, you want to marry my daughter. I don't blame you. Look at her, she's hot.
There we go. And the funny thing is, I was gonna have Hackman intro us, but I thought that'd be in bad taste, so I didn't want to do that.
No, not at all. I mean, that's kind of the nucleus of the episode, but also, it's Hackman. It is so insane, and we'll get more into it. Like, some legends are kind of a product of their time, and there's so much with him where I mean, and I don't mean this, I try not to mean this in a bad way, but there was a point in his career that almost mirrored a lot of Michael Caine's. And Gene Hackman was kind of like the American Michael Caine, where they had this slump where they were just in anything. And then when their careers upticked again, it was like unprecedented. Like even their uptick had kind of outdone in some ways what had come before. So when they stopped acting, it was kind of like, they were able to survive probably more. Like they have stuff in the beginning of their career, the middle, and the end, where it's all kind of defining if you really look back. Because even Michael Caine Michael Caine was in Jaws: The Revenge. Amy, I thank you. I believe that everybody should have a Christopher Walken impression. There was a Super Bowl ad. It wasn't this year, but it was last Super Bowl, and Walken did he did an ad for BMW, and basically he was driving, going from like place to place, like drive through to drive through. But one of the ones that sticks out is he drives and he goes to a drive through, and the guy goes, "Here's your coffee, Mr. Walken. Careful with it. It's hot."
You just hit that, and I was trying to find that so I could maybe get him to do like that cadence with the,
I would love for him to do rap. Like Christopher Lee has a metal album. Why can't we get to the windows, to the walls, from the sweat
you know what?
of my balls? Skeet skeet,
I
motherfucker.
I can try to make that.
That'd be awesome.
I can try to make that.
I love Chris Pine's impression of him, and he did it on James Corden. And I love the fact that he actually kind of removes the exaggeration. Because he does the like if Christopher Walken did like a Net Geo series or episode where it's so there's this lion. There he is. Right there. He's the king of the jungle. Big tail, flowing mane. Out to here. He's in charge of the savannah. King of his domain. He waits patiently for some elk or antelope that he can get his hands on. Like he removed, like a lot of people who do Walken impressions, a lot of it is not to make it consistent, because and Severance is a perfect example. Like there's a scene, and this is not a giveaway, but there's a scene where he's talking to John Turturro's character, and he's in charge of he's the people who do like the interior, like paintings and the aesthetic of like what the inside of the office looks like. And he does this one line, and oh my God, like as many times as I've rewatched the episode, I still laugh at that, because he's talking to him. He's like, he's like, "Are you a department head?" He goes, "No, just part of optics and design." And then he talks about this painting they're kind of just appreciating together. And Walken literally goes, I kid you not, he goes, "It's rare to find someone who appreciates this so much." And it is literally like, whoa, hang on, guys, hang on, what? And then, of course, there's one scene he does the patented, "You're crazy. No one believes that at all. I, on the other hand, disagree with you."
And see that's I pulled something, I forget what it was from, what movie it was from. Something where he talks about a lion in some movie. I forget. I pulled the
think
lion.
It's like The Rundown.
Something. It was, all I know is the thing was it was Christopher Walken, the lion speech. So I pulled about.
I think that's The Rundown. There's this lion. He's the king of the jungle.
Yeah.
Flowing
Um,
mane, claws, big teeth. Out to here.
mhm. Yeah, that's what I pulled. I pulled about, like, 30 seconds of it,
And that's just
and
what makes them unique. Pacino's kind of the same way, especially now, Pacino being in his 80s.
that's just well, wait, isn't Walken's in his 80s too,
Walken's like
right?
85, 86, and then Pacino, I
Holy
think, is like
shit.
and then I think Pacino's like 83?
Oh, that's I mean,
Yeah, Pacino's 83 with a 2-year-old. They get along so well because they're both at an age where they just babble and shit their pants or shit their diapers, so that tracks. But that was awesome.
I have to, whenever I can squeeze him in there.
Could you imagine him as like a dad though at that age? Because I love looking at like him doing like Michael Corleone, like in the
Mm,
first one, where he was like
mhm,
obviously super young, and even though he did stage, like in that movie, he's so restrained compared to like
mm,
other things he does. But it's so great to just watch him be restrained, like when he was just young. And then
right.
fast forward like 50 years or so, and you get like Heat and Scent of a Woman, where it's like,
Mm,
all right, let me tell you, you are a bad person. I'll tell you why. Because you don't like Bonnie, the purple dinosaur. He's another one too, like vocal, just
mhm,
yeah, just all over the place. You're like, where the fuck is he going?
right. Yeah, just
And then
it's very
De Niro's
erratic.
finally entering that because he's like grumpy old man and he's trying to be like super political. And it's like, yeah, you're entitled to your opinion, but you do really sound like you belong in the rest home when you just go off on tangents where they just want to grab you by the hand. It's like, okay, grandpa.
I mean, see, I think he's at a point too, De Niro is, where he'll do anything movie-wise at this point. I don't even think he's
I think he
trying to
reads
look for any
scripts.
he just no.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
How much
just
did they
like,
say they're gonna
"Oh,
pay?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. How much did they say they're gonna
yeah,
pay?
take it."
Okay. Yeah, Pacino ran into that and he was at least honest about it. And I felt almost a little bad for the guy because obviously his career had reached a point where it's like, well, I'm a thespian and not just an actor. Like I'm more than the business, because the
Mhm,
business has treated me this way. And he had talked about like how, you know, he had money, he spent money, he didn't realize how much he had spent. He, like many
mhm,
people who get money, like they don't properly track it, or the people who are supposed to be doing it for them do a shit job. It's almost pretty par for the course that you have people in Hollywood that have people that are supposed to be protecting their interests and their investments, and they don't. They do a shit job, or worse, they
right,
do it intentionally to embezzle from those people because it's like they're the ones in control. So it's like, well, so much money's coming in and this guy can't even keep track. And it's like, yeah, but it all comes back to kind of haunt you because sooner or later, somebody's going to show up and go, Al Pacino didn't buy a yacht that happens to also be a hovercraft. Like, who spent this money for what?
mhm,
So that's why he did like Jack and Jill. And that's why he started doing a lot of movies. And of course, it became a case of, oh, well, he'll just do anything. And it's like, well,
mhm,
he admits he was like, yeah, I kind of fell on my ass. Like I bought stuff not knowing I shouldn't have bought this stuff. So when I
right,
bought it, I was asset rich, but I was cash poor. Like I bought stuff and I could point to it and go, yeah, that's worth X million dollars. But
mhm,
outside of like the value, I don't have that money in my pocket because I bought that. And that becomes kind of the disconnect where it's like, well, yeah, they have money, but if they buy dumb shit with it, then well, of course they're technically going to be broke. There's a
Right.
especially when you get that much money, there's such a huge difference in, having things and having liquidity. Where it's like, "Oh, yeah, I bought nice shit. Okay, well, we're gonna go to Burger King," and they'll be like, "Well, I don't have enough money," and it's like, "Yeah, but you bought a fucking harp made from like a mastodon bone. How the fuck can you
Oh,
not?" He was cute and Jack and Jill. He really was, and you know, Adam Sandler has a very interesting distinction to have Pacino as well as Jack Nicholson in one of his movies, and in the case of Nicholson, a lot of people were like, "Well, that's just gonna," because I remember at the time I was like, "Why is Jack Nicholson in a movie like this? Like, how did this happen?" Like, I feel like he like lost a bet and then had to do like the Adam Sandler movie. And I think a lot of actors like to step outside their comfort zone and have fun. Jack Nicholson was one of those, especially as he got older.
mhm.
Because obviously he was another one for so many years in Hollywood, where you're kind of worshipped and you make so much money. He used to have, and I believe this to be true, but
Mhm.
he used to have Paramount's jet, like one of their
I don't
private
doubt it.
jets, standby for him.
I mean,
And anytime he wanted to go
Chinatown.
anywhere, for the most part, like, yep. Oh, that movie. I was actually just talking today with someone about Chinatown, and I love that fucking movie. I think it is a masterclass in directing, writing.
Mhm.
It is executed at such a level that many movies today are not. But Roman Polanski is still a cunt, and he will
I agree.
always be a cunt. And it is, and let's be clear here. This is also a case of, oh well, I fled, but yeah, I wasn't guilty. And it's like, okay, well, would you try to clear your name? Well, I don't have to leave Europe. And remember, he kept making movies after he kind of self banished himself.
He
And
did.
well, and here's what's interesting too. People love to kind of talk tough about issues. Like, I don't, this is bad and this is terrible, and child molesters and stuff are bad and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, but where's the line? Because you can't help but to kind of look and point and go, you know, Harrison Ford worked with Polanski after he left. Johnny Depp worked with Roman Polanski after he left.
Right.
And
He
and
did.
the same goes for Adrian Brody. Actually, Adrian Brody's first Oscar is because of Roman Polanski.
Oh
And
shit, you're right.
The Pianist. And are you ready for this?
Fuck.
Roman
Didn't even
Polanski
think of that.
earned a Best Director Oscar for The Pianist. And I've actually seen the movie. It is
Yeah.
very, very good. But Polanski's a piece of shit and has been. I mean, even before the charges came against him and he left and all that legal shit and he went into hiding,
Mm.
but he was innocent. Hey, I'm,
Right.
I'm, I'm hiding out in Europe. Okay, you're not hiding. You're not, you know what I mean? You're in
Yeah.
Europe
You're
and you're not hiding per se because you're still
you
making
know
money.
what you did. You know
Yeah,
what you're getting away from.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, um, but he it's funny how it's almost like people, and I don't know if it's intentional, but I think more just because of what it was to what it is. Like, people seem to cue into Rosemary's Baby more than they cue into Chinatown. And Rosemary's Baby I enjoy very much. I see why,
Mhm.
it kind of started a trend with horror, because it was more kind of nuanced horror when you look at it.
Right.
And it was early horror, so it wasn't like we weren't at torture porn yet. We weren't at that phase of horror. But
Thankfully, yes.
but Chinatown is like a master class in like a film noir. And it is
Mhm.
it is done so well on so many levels. And I know I think I've talked about it before, but I love that story about Faye Dunaway. First of all, she was like one of my crushes, like growing
Mhm.
up. And then
I
she got
believe it.
older and of course had a ton of plastic surgery. And I get it, you're trying to fight the clock. But she apparently Polanski was really rotten to her on set. Like, he really, was not very kind to her. and they were doing this one scene, doing multiple takes, of course, and she was like, I need a bathroom break. And he refused to give her a bathroom break. He said, be a fucking professional, suck it up. Like, we're finishing this scene. And Faye Dunaway was always one of those types, not just in many of her movies, but just in general. She was one of those
Right.
tough types that was like, she I don't think she gets enough credit for her place in Hollywood. Just my opinion. But she said, okay, fine. So what she did is she took a cup that was nearby, she pulled it up her dress, and she pissed in it. And she walked up to Roman Polanski and she doused him in her piss and said, all right, I'm ready.
I like that.
Dude, and the crazy thing is that, that may seem like extreme behavior on both sides, but it's a bathroom break. Like,
Yeah.
it's a little on the inhumane side when you stop and think about it. Like,
It is. No, it is.
Like, you want this person to keep working, but they're holding it and they're causing themselves discomfort they don't need. It's not
Right.
it's not something like you're doing a scene and it's like, oh, she's supposed to be holding it or something, like, method acting or whatever. It's like, no, just don't be a prick, dude. Let the woman take a fucking piss. She probably drank a lot of coffee and had asparagus. Like, she needs to let that shit run out. And
Yes.
she, because I guess that was kind of her breaking point. Because as far as the reports, the stories go, throughout um, the entire production of Chinatown,
Mhm.
he was a tyrant towards her, and it was just kind of like, and you can make the case of, okay, well, I want to work with a talented director. I don't know what he does in his personal life, and it's like, okay, but in this case, we kind of did.
Mhm.
Like, it's a little hard, and we've talked about it here before, the separation of art and artist. This one's a little more on the nose, to where it's like, dude, like, this has been at the forefront of your career for ages, and you still had Hollywood. Like, you still had so many movies that were released. You still made, like, I'm pretty sure, like, he made a good another 10 movies or so, and all that. Like, the man made a lot of movies and money for studios.
Yeah, you did.
But that's the key there. Like, as long as they're earning the money, they don't give a shit.
Oh no.
And it's cute how they're like, oh, well, we're against this, and we want people to not. We want people to know that we hold people accountable for what they do and blah blah blah. It's like, no, you really don't. Like, until the shit with Weinstein was blown wide open, people knew the shit he did.
Right.
So it's kind of bullshit on a stick that you would be like, no, no, no. It's like, sorry, let's see. Yeah, the Ninth Gate, which was kind of bizarre.
That was 99, I think, right? Or 98, somewhere in there.
99. Very good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He did Macbeth. I forgot about that.
That was the 70s, right? I think, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. Chinatown is still fucking amazing. Yeah, and then he had a gap, because after Tess, I think is when he fled, or right around that time. And then 1986 is when he had Pirates. And it's hilarious because I don't know if you've ever seen the movie.
No, I haven't.
So it's a canon film, which says a lot, but
I'm surprised he did a canon film.
He was probably broke.
I mean,
and they
holy
probably
shit.
threw like a ton of money at him. They were probably like, dude, like, that whole company was operating in the red for so many years before the bottom popped out, and they had no choice but to fold up. Oh yeah, Death and the Maiden. I actually like that one.
Yeah, that was
Pianist, Carnage. Carnage is an interesting one because that's actually based on a play.
yeah,
Yeah,
Carnage. I've heard of it. I haven't seen it, but I have heard of that one.
it's not bad. Oh yeah, he's still directing movies now.
He's got to be up there though. Like
He was born in
I'm just looking at
1933.
this now.
So, yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, he's like digging. He's in his 90s. Yeah,
Wow, he's still directing at
yep,
this point.
yep.
Jeez.
He's made like 41 features. Let's see.
What is he? Is he trying to be Clint Eastwood or what?
I know.
I still got to see Juror number 2. I'm curious about Juror number 2 and how Clint handled that one.
Well, that was an interesting one because apparently it's good, but for some reason it was kind of buried.
Yeah,
Like it was one of those where I was like, wait, what do you? Because I knew he was making that movie, which is probably going to be his last one. But I did have a lot of moments of, well, oh, like Clint Eastwood's last movie, and especially being from Warner Brothers, where he was at for so many years. Like he has a soundstage named after him on Warner Brothers lot.
hopefully it
So
stays. Like hopefully it stays after he goes, and they don't, because
I,
I
I
don't
think he
trust
should.
Zaslav to do.
Oh,
Yeah.
that Wes, yeah. Okay, Polanski is 91 years old.
Holy shit. That's wow.
Yep.
Like 91 years old.
Yep.
How can he still be going? I mean, holy shit.
I mean, well, and the thing is too is like, depending on the kind of director you are, it's not necessarily labor intensive. So
Right.
it is possible that people can keep going. But also I and I hate to say that talent fades, but after a while it's like are you just doing what you're doing? Like are you just bored? Did you not want to stay home?
Yeah,
Like it's kind of
I don't
weird.
think yeah, but I don't think that's he doesn't seem to me like someone that would just like back away from I mean, but still, you reach a certain age, and I'll even say this about Clint, and I love Clint Eastwood, but like just you hit 90. I think, you have nothing to prove. Just relax yourself. I mean, like,
Well, I guess maybe I can't help but to think like maybe they don't know what they would do with themselves.
mm,
You know, I feel like
I
sometimes
mean,
that might be the case where it's like, if I stop, then what would I do?
yeah, I mean,
And of course, for so
see
many
that.
filmmakers, like their career defines them. Like if they're not doing something, then who are they?
Yeah, that I could see that. I could definitely see that. It's just I don't know. I can't see myself at 90 directing a movie, but then again, I'm not making it anywhere near to 90, I'm sure. So if I
Well, not with
do,
that
kill me
attitude,
because
mister.
exactly. I mean, if I do, kill me, but I'll be dead
Morgan,
already.
hello.
Yes, that's
No, I'm right there with you on that one, where it's like, and it's not like you intend to die, but like you'll you'll do your
I'll
best.
yep. I'll be. You know what? At that point, I will have no more plant-based food. I will go and I will have a spicy chicken McCrispy deluxe every day until it can. Actually, no, scratch that. I won't. I will go to McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day until I die. Morgan Spurlock did it. I
He
will
did.
do it and but I will allow it to kill me. He didn't let it kill him. I will let it kill me.
There you go.
McDonald's, you will kill me. That is that's my
I,
decision at this
I
point.
feel like there's a sponsorship deal.
Hey, if it'll bring us money, I'll take it.
Yeah, I
I
feel like
will
there's a
take it.
sponsorship
I
deal
will
there.
take it. I will take it.
That's
I
funny.
will take it. I mean, yeah, supersize my artery. Well, no, because that'll wait. Will that supersize my arteries or constrict, clog my arteries?
Death
Yes.
by daily double. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah, and then I'll cap off dinner with a nice 1,000 some calorie milkshake. Oh yes. I
See,
can
look at that.
taste it
You've got
now.
goals.
Hey, this is adulting done right.
That's funny. And not far off.
No, no, not at all. Not at all.
Well, and especially when, you know, when I've heard the phrase coined, um, the slow death of fast food. That is not far off. Like, you know, when you look at the way some of this stuff is made, and I think there was a time where they kind of tried to keep that away from the public,
Hmm.
and now it's like, yeah, a lot of it's crap. You like the taste of it. We've made it fairly addictive
Yeah.
intentionally. Just choke on your burger and give us your money. Like that's. I know that sounds a little cold and despondent, but I mean that.
No,
I feel like that's
it's
accurate.
no, it is. It's very accurate. Very accurate. And that's the thing. Oh, see, and it's not even McDonald's. It's Arby's now. They get me too with their little. And look, when I was like a few years ago, I had I would eat a lot of fast food. It wasn't until like maybe the last year that I've kind of like reined it in.
Right.
And like I had McDonald's last week for the first time in like 10 months.
Your
And it
body
was just,
freaked out.
dude, it was weird. And I felt like so, like I ate it and I felt different. Like I was like, this feels different. This is not this, like,
Is this supposed to be happening?
right. Like I don't get it, but like I'm good now. I had my Shamrock shake for the year, so now
Your shamrock.
I don't need it again. I love those fucking Shamrock thingies. I love the mint and the green food coloring. Yes, kill me faster. Yeah.
Amy says that's why it's affordable for the masses. Population control, masses, affordable meals. Amen.
Yes.
And it's funny because people love to talk about that stuff where it's like, well, that sounds like conspiracy shit, and it's like, no, like it's systematic. It has to be, where it's like, oh, well, you eat this stuff and it's bad for you and it makes you sick. Oh yeah, by the way, they're also going to want you to donate to cancer causes while this stuff is really bad for you and probably causing you cancer. Oh, and by the way, the healthcare system is rigged to be so expensive, so you have to pay to cling to life. You're probably not going to make it, but It's all kind of built in. And I'm a, oh, amen, it is not real food.
No.
I don't think most generations past a certain point know what real food is. I don't think, like, perfect example is I'm looking at Coke now,
Mhm.
and they're like, "Well, this is the original taste." I'm like, "No, it's not." I said, "Because what you used to make before and what you used to make now is two different things. Because you found ways to cut costs, you found ways
Mhm.
to make more with less for less, and
Mhm.
why wouldn't you rig that scale? Why wouldn't you like as looking at like major corporations? Like
Mhm.
why wouldn't you go a cost cutting route because you could, even if it feels like nickels and dimes, because it would be long term. We save this much in 10 years by doing this. Well, how much do we honestly save a year at this point? Well, at first it'll be like $10. And I have my current job as well as other jobs. I have dealt with companies where yes, they will fuck people over for 10 fucking dollars. They are
Mhm.
that happy to do so.
Right.
It's not made with real sugar. It's half caramel coloring and chemicals now. Absolutely. I wish, Amy, they would go back to, for those who know, the original recipe. I'm not talking about the shit that I used to drink growing up when I was a kid 40 years ago. I'm
Mhm.
talking about when it was first made with soda water, caramel
Yes.
flavoring, and a bunch
Mhm.
of illicit drugs like fucking cocaine because the
Yes.
guy who created it was trying to cure his fucking syphilis and he
Mhm.
didn't. But god damn, that must have been a tasty, invigorating fucking soda pop.
I concur. I concur.
And I
I
also had
concur.
to let my son know that, and this was many, many years ago when I was still active duty. He, they had come up with like Blast and different flavors and stuff like that. And And I said, you guys don't know how good you got it with all these flavors and options and stuff like that. And he was like, what do you
Mhm.
mean? When I was growing up, I said, guess how many flavors of Mountain Dew I had? Said, how many?
Mhm.
I said, one.
Yep. Mhm.
He was like, what do you mean? I said, Mountain Dew came in Mountain Dew flavor. None of this diet bullshit. None of this fucking Code Red crap. And I was like, Code Red? I'm like, what the fuck is this? A Feel Good Man? Code Red?
Yeah.
And that stuff tastes like shit. I've
Yeah.
had antifreeze that tastes better than that
I
fucking
didn't.
Code Red crap. And speaking of
Uh,
which, Mountain Dew, like that color back then and that color now is different. The color back
yeah.
then looked like fucking antifreeze.
Yeah. I agree.
And when you took a piss, it was the same fucking color going in as it was going out.
Mhm. Mhm.
A whole different kind of burn back then. Yeah, it's funny. The guy, made a fucking empire by trying to treat syphilis. Isn't that fucking crazy?
Yeah.
And when you
Very,
look at
very
it, it's
true.
like, oh, and who was the person? Like, was it in his family or was it him who carried it over and went? So let me get this straight. He can't cure the syphilis, but people want to drink this stuff anyway. Okay,
Yeah.
and an empire was launched. 1,000 ships launched, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of interesting how when you look at some of the histories of some of this shit, it's fucking
Mhm.
it blows my mind. Some of the stuff when you really look back at it, it's like, yeah, kind of makes you realize that our species was always kind of fucking doomed. I don't care how many of us there
Yeah.
are on the fucking planet.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm like, yeah, Mountain Dew was like Mountain Dew. And I said, we didn't have diet. Like, nobody even thought of that, you
No.
know? And now that's like cough syrup used to have morphine in it too. Oh my god, yes, Amy. If they brought back morphine, I would never stop being sick.
Yeah. Just hook it. I'll
Could you
take
imagine?
it.
Could you imagine people would just look at me like, "How the fuck do you have a cold for 7 years?" I'm like, "You don't tell me how to treat my health. Fuck you." Ah, cough syrup had and I actually grew up like 70s and 80s, so I didn't have the morphine, but
Wow.
I had like Lewis Black has a bit that I adore and I agree with because I remember some of this stuff where he talks
Mhm.
about NyQuil when it first came out. And he was like, you know, yeah, I'd have a chronic cough too. Oh yeah. I would literally, Amy, I would literally have a case of what I would call the eternal sniffles to where I would just need it. But he talks about NyQuil and he was like, NyQuil comes in red and green. It's the only things on this planet that taste like the colors red and the colors green. And he goes, they make a daytime NyQuil and a nighttime NyQuil. And that makes no fucking sense to me because your cold doesn't know what time it is. And it's like, yep, that sounds about right. And he goes, yep, in 1978 when NyQuil went on the market, I drank the whole bottle and nobody had told me anything about I shouldn't operate farm equipment. So I drank the whole
Mm.
bottle of NyQuil. I woke up 3 days later in the city of Rockford, Maryland, where
Mhm.
I had never been before. Next to me was a woman I had never met, and we were married. But god damn it, I could breathe again. Careful with castor oil, that'll give you the shits. Yeah, we used
Yeah.
to do that shit in the military to each other because we were really stupid. They gave us guns anyway, but what the fuck?
Mhm.
But yeah, looking back at like how some things got started and like, steroids in World War II was used to help healing. And then, fast forward like 30 years and then like people were injecting it to make like their muscles bigger and their dick smaller.
Yeah.
So,
And that's exactly what it did.
well, and it's weird how any innovation that we as a species come up with is so easily perverted and abused. That's why
Mhm.
I hope that the ability for invisibility never happens. Do you know the shit that would fucking happen? Like, perfect example for me is for those, Amy Morgan. I don't know if you guys watched The Boys. I was a fan of the comic book for the series, and I remember they were going to make it into a movie, but eventually became a series. And I think that was the
Mhm.
best way to go. And it is so on the nose about how we would treat people with superpowers and what they would be like in the real world, where they would
Right.
be, they'd be cajillionaires because you'd be almost like saving people for profit.
Mhm.
And then it would all be under abuse. Like, there's so many scenes of just this very like, I mean, some of it borders on like absolute disgusting as far as how these people act, these superheroes. And the whole time, because some people are like, oh, that's disgusting. And oh, it's just so much to watch and blah, 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 blah. And my son watches anime and he won't watch The Boys. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I've seen some anime shit, bro. Like, I'm okay. But people are like, oh, do you really think people would be like that if they had powers? Fucking A rank they would. Like anything we can come like think about it, like anything we can come up with can be abused or turned. And the worst part about it is too, and we've talked about this before, like how the
Mhm.
advertising cocksuckers, they get a hold of this shit. And they
Yeah.
have no problem taking something and turning it on its head in such a way to be almost cheeky and and you know like treat it in such a way where it's like, wait, why would you that makes huh? And a perfect example is, you know, we have DraftKings and FanDuel and Prize Picks and all these betting apps. And all these things are a product of a bill that was basically designed for like people in offices to not have their winnings taxed by like doing like office parlays and stuff like that.
Mm.
So always, Amy, always pay attention to the man behind the curtain. Right along with, and of course, David Lynch, God rest his soul. That man was the best. But it's right up there with the owls are not what they seem. But now we have the NFL. It's the NFL sponsored or responsible betting sponsored by FanDuel. Yeah, could you imagine like medieval practices now? Like if they were burning witches at the stake. And when I say witches, I mean little dicked white guys burning women who could fucking read and be smarter than them, and they were judgmental and they used phony Sky Daddy to back up their play to kill innocent people. Oh, I'm sorry, I said that out loud. But could you imagine now if we were to televise people being burned at the stake? It'd be sponsored by Bridgeford Charcoal.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
It would make gets the message across, kind of, I guess. Hey.
But it's all almost like paradoxical because it comes back to image. Advertising comes back to image. But the thing is like everybody should know by now that it's all bullshit. It's like, stop domestic violence and molestation in the home. Sponsored to you by the Catholic Church. So
I could, yeah.
Oh yeah, you never heard Sky Daddy? I call Sky Daddy. So all those listening out there, Amy, Morgan, Mike, I want you to think about this. This is kind of an epiphany I had the other day. And I posted it on my Facebook, which I only check in and out of, which has been great for my mental health. I've stayed away for a while. It was pretty good. It's helped. And I, of course, miss aspects of Facebook. But I have a question about religion. Organized religion, if you will. But here's my question. So if and I'm talking about any religion, they're all organized, or as I like to call religion, mythology corporations. I think that's the good name for them. I think that's accurate. Because for some reason it's like, well, no, we can't properly economically help people who are in need. But when I die, the flying rainbow disco sky Jew is going to take me to a magical place in the clouds, and I'm going to get my own harp assigned. There you go. But I have a question when it comes to religion, and I think this is something that really needs to be explored. And this is one of those things that's like, think for yourself on this. So if billions of people believe this stuff, right? They're all, and I get for some people it's not always the same, but it's all centered around a Messiah. Okay. So how is it possible that billions of people have the same imaginary friend all at the same time? I kind of need that explained to me.
I can't explain it, obviously.
Do you see where I'm going with this? I'm being that asshole. But I will be
I saw that. No, I saw that post and I got it because it's weird because and I think I've said this before. I was raised with religion, but when I got older,
you weren't raised. You were programmed.
Right. Yeah.
I was programmed with religion.
And I pretty much, as soon as I was like confirmed or whatever, I was out the door because they were like, okay, so now it's and it was it. And then the thing was, like, after my dad died, I went back because I'm like, okay, my life is crappy. Let's see if this makes me feel any better. So, and obviously I was older at the time because it was like 2013. So I went back to it. And I was like, not really feeling it. I'd much rather be watching Halloween.
Exactly.
So that's what I did.
Do you know the biggest fear organized religion has?
What is that?
Questions.
I can agree with that.
Questions.
Hmm.
Here's another one. So if Jesus died for our sins, even though many of us weren't created yet, I don't know how he have a fucking predated Rolodex? Like, how the fuck did he do that? Now that's impressive. That's fucking godly. But if he died for our sins, once again, this is a question. They don't like this shit. They don't like logic. And they don't want you to apply logic and a question together because it throws their whole argument out the window. Because at the end of the day, they don't have an argument.
Hmm.
If he died for our
Wow.
sins and came back 3 days later, where the fuck's the sacrifice?
I mean, yeah, he did come back. Well,
How do you
yeah,
how do you how do you die, come back and go, I sacrificed myself, and then all the serfs and turnip growers are like, well, there's barely a scratch on you. I was raised program Pentecostal. Oh, sweetie. Oh, that oof. That one's a lot. There's only one church, one service. Now, here's also that kind of goes in hand with my thinking towards organized religion.
Mhm.
Is I have been to other services, regardless of them thinking I'm a heretic, whatever. But
Mhm.
if I'm going to make an informed decision, I intend to be informed.
I get
The
that.
only one I can get behind, if
Mhm.
any, even though it does have a Sky Daddy built in, because they all do, Jesus, Allah, Joseph Smith, Liberace, whoever the fuck. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'd pray to Liberace. Did you see those fucking suits? Oh my god. Oh my god, indeed.
Mhm.
The only one I got any kind of enjoyment was Southern Baptist. You know why? Because you don't want the choir and the people singing to get off of their hallucination. Because they believe it. And that's the thing. If you believe it, and this is not me shedding on anybody believing. If you believe, that's fine. If you feel it's come to your life and made
Mhm.
you better for it, that's great. But my issue is when you turn the table and judge me because I don't believe. Well,
There's a lot of those in the world.
because you believe, and they're like, "Oh no, that's not fair because God said so." I'm like, "You have got a fucking speed dial, dude. Let me see your phone."
Mhm.
That's my beef. But a Southern Baptist church, ooh, they got the spirit and they got the tambourine and they're like that.
Yeah.
I feel that, and especially
Mhm.
like Catholics, because I was programmed like hardcore Catholic, like where my
Mhm.
grandma would take me to McDonald's and she's like, "You have to order a fillet of fish. It's fucking Friday, you little shit." She would say fucking and little shit, but then that wasn't blasphemy, but it was blasphemy to
Right.
have a fucking quarter pounder.
Right. This is okay. So Lent just started for Catholics because I have members of my family still practice, and I was
Lint?
always for years like
I used to
Lent
call it,
where you
yeah, I
don't
would
eat
call it lint. Like,
Lent.
"Hey,
Yeah,
we
that
have
makes
lint." I'm like, "I saw my pockets. I have lint too.
yeah,
Hey."
exactly. Here you go. It's a little yeah. But see, and that's like there's people like I said in my family like they don't go to church. They don't do church at all. But yet they'll give up stuff for Lent and they won't eat meat on Fridays, and I'm like, that just seems so stupid. Like, why do you not practice? Like, you don't go to church every Sunday. You don't practice. What? And still, you're not eating meat. Like, what's the point? What are you trying to gain from it? It makes like all or nothing is how I see it. Like, if you're
Yeah.
gonna do it, do it. Or if you're not gonna, like, Like,
It's always been half-assed, in my opinion, for most people, because to be devout means to commit. And for a lot of people, it's a matter of committing in time of need, not time of want. It's always a true case of I believe it when I have to. The only
right.
times I am now religious and I talk to
Mhm.
God, the only time as a grown up when I've reached the point
Oh,
of reason
what the hell?
was three instances: in
Mhm.
combat, in traffic, and while I was fucking.
Mhm.
First part,
I can.
first part
Mhm.
in combat. Oh God, traffic. Oh God, and while I was fucking. Oh God.
I take it the last one was the best one?
Oh yes, yes.
Yes.
Well, that's why people get pregnant because while they're fucking, they go, "Oh God, oh baby," and it's like, "Oh, you have his attention," and they're like, "Boom, there's a kid."
That's great. That's great. Boom, there's a kid.
But also, once again, it's a matter of whether or not people truly believe. And I can tell you, especially here in Utah,
Yeah.
they have what's called Jack Mormons, and these are the people who don't. It's it's a commodity when they need it. You know,
Mhm.
it's like when they want to get behind things when they feel like it. You know, like let me support a cause. How are you supporting it? Because I said so. Oh, because I said so. That was my parents' defense for a stupid fucking rule they used to tell me when I was 9, and I would question it. Why do I do this? Because I said so. Oh, fucking incompetent parental figures. And I think for everybody, when you reach a certain age, it's a matter of if you accept it or not, or you believe it or not. For me, my take on religion comes primarily, or predominantly, I should say, not primarily, from my time in the military, my time in war zones, and my time in combat. And you see certain things and you go, if that's God's will, boy, he's fucking something.
Mhm.
I did feel like I said Sky Daddy on that one. I was actually going to call out his name, but I'm pretty sure the girl would have been really upset. I'm just one of those types where and it's for and if like I said, if you believe it, like I've had conversations with people and they have that I'm wrong, or yeah, I'm wrong, they're right. And it's like, okay, if you think so, but I don't I don't see it that way. And
Mhm.
why am I the one that's wrong? Because here's the thing. If they know there's an afterlife, what's the secret? Now, remember, they're all going to say, well, you got to believe this shit.
Mhm.
How you have to believe it. I said, okay, but it's not just with the book. Like, what do you know that I don't? Like, once again, do you have the big guy on speed dial? Is he hanging out with Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and other mythical figures like the female orgasm? Like, do they all just sit on a cloud somewhere where it's like, you think we're real, but we're not? Like, no, come on. You if you come to the conclusion on your own, 9 out of 10 times, it's gonna be pretty straightforward. Nick Johnson, Facebook sucks. So does. I'm not censoring. Oh,
Oh,
trust me,
I'm
I
not.
would never censor anybody.
No, I don't censor either. I mean,
um, oh God, well, how much has it censored me then thus far? Because I've woo.
I hear you're not. I mean, it's not cutting any of your audio out. I know that because I can
Oddly
hear it.
enough, my point is you get if you're raised on it, That one's not mythical. I can draw you a map for y'all. Sweet! I'll get my spelunker hat with a little light on it. No, it's interesting for guys, and not because it's like, oh wow, like women are supposed to do that. Some women come differently from others, but it's more introverted. Like women look great when they come, where it's like, oh, don't touch me.
There you go.
And then you have us, what's considered the more dominant species, where when we nut, we're like, "Dak, dak, dak."
I'm clipping. Don't do things like that, because I'm just gonna clip it. And
You're pretty. you know, and 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 who's the
damn
better
it,
of
I
the
gotta.
two?
This soundboard has to be better. Damn it, because
Look at it this way: if you ever want to be upset with yourself for the rest of your life, jerk off in the mirror and see what it looks like when you fucking nut. You will call every woman you ever fucked and apologize that they had to look at that when you came.
dude. No bullshit. When I was younger, I actually did that because I wanted to see.
I've done it.
It was horrifying, really, and never again. Never again.
Well, when I did it, the first thing that crossed my mind is like, am I really doing it? And then the second thing that went across my mind was, oh, hey, mom, I forgot to lock the door. So,
Yeah, I never was that lucky to have anybody walk in, thankfully. Whew. That would, yeah. I think that would traumatize me for life at that point.
well, and especially when it comes to like sex and stuff like that, it was so funny how, like, my parents didn't talk about that stuff, and that was all part of like the control thing with the whole Catholicism. I didn't from Amy, real talk. Not every woman looks great. I personally hate my face. Oh, so you did that in the mirror too? Remember, when guys whack off, the place is called a spank tank. And when women whack off, it's called the DJ booth. Chip it, chip it, chip it. So when I was deployed, we would have bunk beds, but we would have blankets over to cover it up. So we would call it either the spank tank or the DJ booth. So, and I had a very close friend. She was a female, and she's like, "I'm in the DJ booth." She was like,
I
"I'm
don't
getting
think
a
he ever
remix."
did. What the?
You took a video. Oh, you're a fucking legend.
I mean,
Like, you should get
yeah,
into heaven
that's
if it existed on that. Like,
at that point, yeah.
just walk past St. Peter. I got receipts, bitch.
Yep. I'm in.
My mother used to ask when I locked the door to the bathroom, "Are you playing with yourself?" And I'd be beating the shit out of my dick going, "No, I'm fucking serious."
Oh shit.
I would beat my dick like it owes me money with fucking interest, god damn it.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Be like, "Are you playing with yourself?" I'm like, "No, mom, I'm playing for keeps." What does this have to do with Gene Hackman? Not a fucking thing.
No, not at all. But this is how we do. Usually,
This
we
is,
just
and this is part of the beauty of doing this. And there's all kinds of. One that I enjoy, and I love Bill Burr. Morgan, you fuckers are off the wall tonight. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret, and I meant to bring this up a little earlier. I am on day 3. I don't know. I don't think I told you this, Mike. I am on
Mhm.
day 3 of no energy drinks. I've actually cut out energy drinks, and I went cold turkey.
Okay. I see. I didn't know this. So wait. Okay. So I remember the conversation. Wait, we were supposed to. Okay, so we were gonna do Thursday, right? And then that's when.
Originally, yeah.
So was Thursday your first?
That was my first day.
Oh.
So let me
Oh. Oh.
so let me
No one. Oh. I get it.
wait, are you recording your O
I.
face now? Because you keep saying go.
Oh. 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 No. I get it. I get it though. Holy shit.
Oh yeah.
Holy shit.
So I have, and and part of it is because Utah has such bad air quality,
Mhm.
and it's because there's a lot of fat fucks here who fart all the time. No, that's not true.
Well.
That's actually there's a lot of industry here, and there was a lot of dumping of chemical waste. I want to say 40s and 50s predominantly, and the the Great Salt Lake's actually been evaporating,
Okay.
and that stuff gets released into the air. So the air quality here can be very bad some days, like really bad. Um, so I've had sinus issues for a while, probably longer than I care to really, want to kind of admit. And I really
Mhm.
only started having them when I was in the military, particularly being stationed, being marooned here.
Mhm.
So I started medication from the VA. Believe it or not, folks, I'm on like a ton of lithium and Lexapro, and I bet all of them are like, "No, you're not." Yeah,
Yeah,
believe it or
they.
not, this could be worse. Um, well, I was looking up a few things a few days ago, and what I found out was, and it's not a big surprise, but even
Mhm.
more so from like just we were talking about food and crap, and a lot of it now is just chemicals and filler, and
Yes.
I thank you, Nick. We hope to see you again soon, good sir. Um, that explains a lot. Just kidding. You're not kidding. um, yes. Now she's just trying to make me forget, like the koala gas bear in The Simpsons, where they did the take on the prisoner.
Yeah.
Just all the gas coming out of its face.
Yeah.
But I took a I read up on some of this stuff, and basically, you know, energy drinks, because it's so much caffeine, sugar, and
Mhm.
chemicals, they
Right.
actually dry out your sinuses. They're actually
Mhm.
worse for your sinuses. Because for me, the caffeine was like, okay, maybe it'll help clear everything up.
Mhm.
Well, actually, quite the opposite. To where I'm always hazy and uncomfortable and stuff like that. So I
Mhm.
said, okay, so I actually have a can of Rockstar in my truck,
Mhm.
and it is of course, as one, I guess the best way to call it, break glass in case of emergency.
Yeah.
I haven't opened it in the 3 days since I bought it, and I've switched to a little bit of soda and a little bit of coffee. I don't feel as
Ooh.
groggy as I used to. I don't feel as all off. My sinuses haven't been too bad.
Mhm.
Um, I feel a little more energized in a good way, not energized in this over chemicalized way. Because when you drink a lot of energy drinks, as I did, there was a lot of
Mhm.
just where your body's like super amped up, and it just doesn't feel right. And now it's actually been kind of nice. I don't know if it was the wisest thing to do cold turkey. I mean, I'm not having massive withdrawals. I had a couple shakes here and there, but like it wasn't like crazy bad.
Mhm.
So I decided, yeah, if I kind of decided to go off of that. Coffee is still a thing. Like I know deep down
Yes.
I can't completely get away from I can't completely get away from caffeine. I never will. Thank God.
Right. Neither
But
can I.
having said that, you know, I feel better without it. I
Mhm.
haven't, like I said, I haven't been too like, oh, like all off the handles with not having energy drinks. And I think in the
Mhm.
long term, too, it'll save me money because I started just as a cheaper kind of side of it. I started buying them by the case
Yeah, it seems like buying in bulk would be cheaper in a sense.
a little, not by much,
Mhm.
but it's very green tea is yes, I actually love green tea. And I love yerba mate. Yerba mate. I don't know if I've ever pronounced that right. I've always probably pronounced it terribly wrong. Um, but no, that's one for me that I've enjoyed
Mhm.
for a while. So um, yeah, I like green tea as well. Coffee, not not too bad, I guess you could say.
And see, I do coffee too, but but at night I started drinking like decaf coffee.
Right.
And I told people before, I'm like, I drink decaf coffee, and they're like, "You fucking nuts! Why would you drink decaf coffee?"
Hey, like what
And
you
they're
like.
like, don't you taste?" They're like, "Don't you taste the difference?" I'm like, "No."
Not
Like
really.
I mean, I drink them both black because I don't like sugar or cream or any of that stuff. So I don't. Yeah, I don't really taste the difference. But it's.
Like to
But
get an iced
I
macchiato latte with raspberry syrup. Oh, I love it when you talk dirty. That sounds amazing. Yeah, I usually get a cold brew, and I got one this morning. It's been kind of nice because we actually used to buy coffee from a friend of ours, and
mhm.
we've got like 2 bags that have just been sitting there. So it's kind of nice to, I should say, kind of go back to that where it's like, oh yeah, okay. As opposed, you know what I mean? As opposed to kind of the other side of it where it's like, yeah, that's not.
Mhm.
And like I said, I'm kind of surprised I haven't completely like just uh because I was expecting to have like a full blown kind of like reaction where my body is like, what are you doing? Like cigarette smokers. My
Right.
father actually, because he used to drink like 3 pots of coffee a day, and the man literally would drink so much coffee that if he didn't have enough coffee, he couldn't sleep. His body
Mhm.
became so dependent to it. And he tried cutting out coffee cold turkey.
Right.
Oh my God. I mean, the man was an insufferable asshat to begin with.
Mm.
But for the 4 hours he did that shit, full body revolt. Yes. Oh my God. I lived in Hawaii and it was like I lived up the mountains, what little mountains there were on Oahu, but it was so much cooler up there. And that man was sweating like a fucking new inmate who just dropped the soap in the shower.
Mhm.
Those 4 hours must have been so fucking long for him.
I bet.
I can't help but to be like, oh my God, like what could that felt like? So when I decided to cut out energy drinks, I was a little worried. I mean, I know I'm kind of a shit to begin with, but I didn't want to be worse to people. But having said that, I was like, okay, let's just fucking see how this goes. So far, it's been
Mhm.
pretty good. It's obviously been a transition, but it's going better than I thought. And I kind of miss coffee. Like I didn't drink a lot of coffee with obviously with energy drinks because it's like, well, I'm already drinking energy drinks. Like, oh fuck, what kind of overload
Yeah,
are we
you woulda.
talking about?
Yeah, would have been like ba boom, ba boom, ba boom. Like,
Oh yeah, I would have been like seconds from killing myself.
Yes. Yeah, please don't do that.
Not today. I'll think about tomorrow. I'll see what my schedule looks like.
I got to get a rim shot in here, damn it.
But you know what? I was actually going to mention that earlier. Like, why the fuck don't you have a rim shot? Like, I feel like that's a
It's
given.
weird because, dude, they give me, so I'm looking here and they give me like 6 options for drops. And it's like I'm trying to figure out how they'll let me add like my own, like MP3 files. And I'm not seeing that option yet.
It would be cool if you could put some of shit, my mic. You could put some of this on there. I know you probably couldn't because you probably get in trouble. White Stripes.
Oh yeah, no, you know what? I could. The only thing is like I couldn't put full songs. I mean like on Rumble I can, but if you do that on like Facebook and YouTube, and actually
Oh yeah,
probably
they'll
can
flag.
too.
Yeah.
But Facebook and YouTube will be like, fuck you.
I've
And
seen.
and
Yeah, that I was gonna say that would definitely have some questions. And I have to say this too. Like I've seen Jack White twice,
mhm.
and I've just wanted to always ask him, what is the hardest button to button? Like, is that is that a fucking fat joke? Like, what is that? Yeah, I adore the man.
Mhm.
He's actually coming back here May 10th.
Ah,
Yep. And I am
nice.
definitely going. Oh, I can't wait.
Very, very nice.
Yeah, he puts on. I still love YouTube will tag that shit fast. I've had that happen to me a few times. Yeah, we've tried that once, like early on, and you told me like in no time flat, they were like, "Yep, they flagged that shit in a
Yeah.
fucking heartbeat."
Yep.
Oh, so
They,
you got a YouTube channel. I got to bug you there, Amy. Just tell me which one
Oh
it
yeah,
is.
she does ridiculous ramblings that we play on here on when the hell is it? Tuesday and Saturday? Well, the Saturday one is just the show that we do on Fridays now.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Is that what it's called on YouTube?
Her YouTube is Amy R, I think.
Sky Daddy. No.
Hey, that dude, I almost feel like just making a YouTube channel called that. I'm sure somebody has to have already though.
Ridiculous. I love the way you have it spelled. I actually was watching Pitch Black yesterday.
Mhm.
I love Pitch Black, and even with its shortcomings, visually,
Yes.
I love Chronicles of Riddick because it's literally like goth
Mhm.
Flash Gordon.
Ah, yeah. That's
Well, and what was so crazy was, and this is how you know when you have kind of star power.
mhm.
So, what was so fun about Pitch Black is it was like a take on, space horror, sci-fi horror, along with, Hitchcock as far as, who's doing what behind the scenes and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed Pitch Black. Like I look back and, it's a fun little space movie that I enjoy.
Mhm.
You think it's about aliens, but it's about family. I Morgan, I've been to Oklahoma, and trust me, it's all about family and not in the good way. It's like, ew. It's one of those. It's like, yeah, they're my first cousin, but I wouldn't want anybody else to fuck my first cousin. It's like, no, 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 honey.
Mhm.
No, no, that's not how any of that works. Um, and then you have Chronicles of Riddick, and you go from like Pitch Black, which was, this very small, kind of self contained, um, you know, low budget or maybe modestly budgeted movie. And then you
Mhm.
fast forward to Chronicles of Riddick, and that was like $110 million.
Yeah.
Like,
that
that was a
was,
big budget, and it was very much meant to be like goth Flash Gordon kind of space opera, and there's a lot of things that work, and there's a bunch of stuff that doesn't.
I'm spacing on it, but wasn't there a third one too, or am I just not
There was,
thinking?
and that was another case of, Vin Diesel having the kind of handle he has on some of the franchises he's ushered in and been a part of. You know,
Right?
he's the one that pushes for these movies more than audiences do.
It seems so at this
Well,
point,
and
yes.
well, a perfect example is like, okay, I remember when the first Triple X came out, and they thought it was going to be all big and bad. And, they treated it as a replacement to Bond. And I'm like, no, like, just kind of do your own thing. Like in the case of like Mission Impossible, say what you will about that delusional elderly running midget Tom Cruise and his they're more Bond movies now than Bond movies
Hmm.
have been for years. And because they stick the landing entertainment wise. And you will definitely get into the article we were talking about a little bit, but basically, um, like Triple X and all these things that he's done, Riddick, he's trying to really push. And in the case of Triple X, like right off the jump, it was like, you're not replacing Bond. Like maybe you can make something that would counter it, that would have its own fan base. And he really didn't. And of
Hmm.
course, he dropped out of his own movie, the second one, and had Ice Cube, who
Yes.
was more cuddly than buff. And he did a little bunny hop. If you look at the movie, everything he does, he has a little boing, boing, like he's part of Super Mario Brothers. And I
Hmm.
actually grew up with Ice Cube. I've seen him twice in concert. I've seen him in Hawaii,
Oh,
and
have you really?
Yeah,
Damn.
I've seen Ice Cube twice,
Hmm.
and he still puts
Dude,
on a
yeah.
great show. He's kind of lost his mind a little bit, but
Little
he's
bit.
quite an integral part of my growing up, and I'll never
Hmm.
forget that. Always grateful. And he was great in Denver because I was actually part of Riot Fest. And before he came on, it was Cypress Hill. And Cypress Hill, like freaking, they were amazing. They leveled the place.
Hmm.
But, they had a third Triple X. That was kind of fun in its own right. And I guess Morgan said they need a new one. So I guess they're actually working on a fourth one.
Are they?
Apparently. I don't know who's asking for one, but
Vin
sure.
Diesel.
Okay. He can ask for these things all he wants, but it's like, yeah, no.
You're not going to make I mean, see, I don't
You
know
can
how
make
you could
you can
do.
make them, but it's like, well, who? Like I said, once again, like who?
Yeah, but you're not going to get that budget back. That's the big problem, and we've said that before, that you
Well, the
can't make
reason why
these.
there is some investment in making more
Mhm.
Riddicks or Triple X's is that overseas they perform well.
Ah,
Because the last one, I think, so here I think it made like less than 40 million box office, but overseas it made over 300 million on like an
ooh,
$80 million budget. So it 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 wasn't like a massive blockbuster that made $1 billion, but it didn't tank either.
right. It may have tanked here, but it didn't tank there, so that.
Yeah. A lot of what he's been in carries
Mhm.
over more overseas than here. And obviously he's been in movies here that have done extremely well, but looking at more the latter part of his career, he is very much a product of the overseas market.
Right.
So, yeah, and for me it's like, well, yeah, that's all hunky dory, dude, but doesn't necessarily mean people want this, that, or the other thing. And so part of the issue too for me is like when extreme sports started becoming a thing,
Mhm.
I think there was a place for it as like this character Triple X and stuff like that. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it would have been cool, but part of the issue is that one, Vin Diesel doesn't do a lot of his own stunts, and
Oh,
and
I thought he
two,
did. I guess not.
no, he really does not.
Really?
He really does not. He likes to kind of play the role, but he does not do. He certainly doesn't do a Keanu Reeves, and he certainly doesn't do a Tom Cruise.
Hmm.
Tom Cruise, I think, just does that shit to make up for his height.
Probably.
With the advancement in AI and CGI, they might have a better shot now too. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I feel like I've always hated, and this happens in Hitman, which I actually enjoy the games. But isn't it funny how this secret government society or these secret agents that no one is supposed to know about is either branded or tattooed with a logo? And it's like, well, they're
Mhm.
part of a secret society. And it's like, well, it's not a fucking secret if they're advertising it with a tattoo on the back of their fucking neck.
No, it's not.
Yeah, like some DEA agent's gonna walk into a drug sting that he's not supposed to tell people, and then wear a T-shirt that says "undercover."
I can totally see that happening.
That would be like a prostitute being like, "Hey, I'm not wearing a T-shirt. I'm not a prostitute, but you can fuck me for money anyway." Ha ha ha.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
Yeah, you know what? You know what her case would be? You don't have to give me cash. Just give me fucking Venmo.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, "Oh, Matt Gates, go away." Matt
Oh shit.
Gates. That
Mm-hmm.
man's been to more proms than actual high school kids. Go fucking figure. And
Mm-hmm.
he's weird looking now. Did you see the way his brow comes up like he's a fucking Vulcan?
Oh my god. Spock.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of feel like I can't help but to wonder. It's like, how do you get that much Botox under the eyelid to raise that shit up that high? Like, what kind of mad scientist fucking crap is that about? Fucking weird. But talking
Yeah.
about Bond, so there was an article we actually chatted about back and forth a little bit before we started the show. And for those who may not know, but we'll cover it again, that
Yes.
Amazon now has the controlling stake as far as the James Bond franchise. A few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
they paid over $8 billion for MGM, which, of course, for a lot of people was like, well, why'd they pay that much? Well, a couple things. Number one, there's over like, I think it's 6 to 7,000 titles in MGM's
Oh
filmography. They're
yeah. When we get to Hackman, I actually have a thing now that Amazon seems to be doing with MGM titles because they apparently did it with one of the Hackman titles I reviewed.
oh, okay.
That's an MGM title.
So I love, I'm one of those people where I'm like, okay, you know, do whatever it is you do. That's cool. But the main jewel of
Mm,
this whole thing was for them to get James Bond. And because the titles, or not the titles, I should say the right, sorry, are kind of broken up between different
mhm,
parties.
right.
It's been very difficult. That's why in many ways it's taken so long for Bond movies to be made. A lot of it has to do with getting things in a certain way. And Eon Productions has never given a director finals cut. They were very protective of the franchise.
Mm,
They treated it like this precious little gem, and I get it. You know, it's very much a big part of Hollywood, and it's very important. I mean, you know, it's been lampooned and serialized as well as serialized, and it's one of those things that's just a part of film culture and pop culture as a whole.
mhm,
But that's why in some cases it takes so long for Bond movies to happen, because it is very much a case of okay, they have to have a say, and they have to have a say, and they have to have a say. So when MGM was bought by Amazon, the first thing, of course, was, okay, how's this going to look now as far as that partnership? And people predicted that long beforehand. So there was this back and forth, and it was a matter of, okay, how is this going to end up when it ends? Well, it ended with Amazon paying $1 billion
Mm-hmm.
to get controlling stake. Oh, agreed, Morgan. They need to make a Bond movie that has a $50 million budget. Yes, because one, $300 million budget shouldn't be sustainable for so many reasons. And number two, you know, big budgets is how you get invisible cars like Die Another Day.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they need to get back to the nuts and bolts of like something in the way of a Cold War. I told you that I feel like they should go back to like a period piece kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But now more details are coming out that I guess there was a lot of barbs thrown back and forth about people's precious little egos being hurt. I guess Barbara Broccoli called Amazon and Jeff Bezos fucking idiots.
Mm-hmm.
And um he basically telling his people, like, find out what the number is. They were like, I want them gone. They're getting in the way of stuff. And at the end of the day, I was always wondering like how that was going to look like at the end of this. I thought it was going to turn into like lawsuits and shit. It did not. Apparently, even with the restructuring and the money and all that shit, there's still some bad blood there. And I have to say, haven't seen a Bond movie since Pierce Brosnan. Daniel Craig's got two really good ones, like legit good ones.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some other ones where it's like, oh, so that was a fucking decision. Okay. Especially considering how expensive these movies became. When you start looking at like the tab, it's like, you paid what? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all said and done. Amazon now has control and has plans. And the whole point was to get Bond rolling. And they're going to get it going sooner than later. And I get that if you have control of something, if you have a stake in something, it's very important. It's very important to, be true to it and be true to yourself. But Leon and the Broccoli's always had this kind of, well, this is ours. They had such a huge kind of stranglehold. And, a lot of people are like, well, they treated it with such care. And it's like, well, did they? Because they're like anybody else out to make money. Because people are like, oh, well, now Amazon's going to be like, oh, well, James Bond pen and James Bond watch and James Bond this. They already have that long before Amazon showed up. They've had James Bond video games, and they've had James Bond this. They've had merchandising at the level that people are already shaming Amazon for. And I get why you would shame Amazon in that way, because it tracks. But I'm also very much like, yeah, don't think you're above it. Like, it's all to make money. And it kind of goes back to this. It's like, well, everybody's purchasable. The Broccoli's, it's like, don't fucking kid yourself. You feel like you protected this thing, and good for you. But I have a problem with how you think you're still above it all, when it's like, well, this is mine and I'm going to take care of it and blah. Oh, did you say $1 billion? Or did Bezos go $1 billion? I would love if they had asked them that, and the Broccoli's were like $1 billion, and they paid them over $1 billion fucking dollars, which is insane. But
oh shit! I'm sorry. Just as I was here, I hit a button, and I think I see how I can upload other shit. So I'm gonna have to work on this. So for next week, we will have a rim shot and all this other shit. Thank God. There we go. Sorry about that. I just, I touch buttons sometimes and things happen.
No shit. Idris Elba would make a great Bond. Agreed. When I drink my coffee, I call it Idris Elba
Well,
because it's dark and strong and smooth.
yes. And that's you know what? I'm with you there on coffee
Hey,
like that. Oh,
hey, look at it this way. When a girl's fucking me, she pretends I'm Idris Elba and she's closing her eyes. And you know what I do? I close my eyes, and while I'm fucking her, I think I'm fucking Idris Elba. So there you go, folks. I'll put no cream in that coffee. There's a few Bonds I'd like to see, and it's funny because Walken was actually a Bond villain.
Yes, I forget
Yeah,
which one was
in
he in?
Roger
'Cause I
Moore's
forget.
last, he was in a View to a Kill.
Fuck yeah! Now that
See, I'd like to see him as this version of Walken. Hey, Mr. Bond, I see you have gadgets. You got them from Q Branch. I know. Wow. Look what you can do. It's crazy. Yeah. No, I mean, obviously Amazon is going to take the it's obviously going to take this now, and they're going to turn it into a commodity. But that's what Bond was under. Like, it's just so weird how people seem to think, the Broccoli's Eon Productions was like these guardians that were like safeguarding this thing that was sacred. And it's like, yes, I realize you want to keep it cinema focused, and you don't want it to be something that people watch on phones or whatever. But it's also like you're stagnating the property in your franchise. Like, you look back at some great franchises and characters that, for whatever reason, rights, creative control, etc., haven't updated. And it's like, so many years ago, say the martini line in the walk-in voice, please. Take a vodka martini, shake it, not stirred. I love his just vocal, just all over the place.
That's great.
Actually, I'd like to see Christopher Walken as Q. So,
Hi.
Mr. Bond, I got this exploding pen. Make sure you put on the right point or it'll explode. This here has a switch. Stun and kill. It would be best not to get the two confused. Telling you, man, Christopher Walken rap album, I want it.
Yeah. I'm gonna work on that. Maybe we'll have
I
that for
wanted to
next
do
week too.
covers of like NWA.
Okay.
Straight out of
I'll work
Compton.
on that.
Crazy. Motherfucking name Ice Cube. From the gang called With Attitude. This pen has exploding invisible ink.
Oh yeah. That was great.
I just, sooner or later, and I guess the Broccolis hated that they kept referring to James Bond as content. And I get I hate the term because now it's thrown around so much where it's lost its meaning.
Yeah, well, because everything's content these days. That's the problem.
Well, if you treat it as such, but when you have a company like Amazon, once again, it's like, well, what did you think? What did you think was going to happen? Like we're in this time where we basically carry around mini computers.
Yeah.
So what did you think was going to happen? Um, this is the serotonin my mind needed tonight. You're very welcome. Don't worry, I'll say some new fucked up shit soon. You'll have more serotonin than you know what to do with.
Yes.
But like you look back at like some of the great characters like Flash Gordon and the Phantom and the Shadow, and they're all like Dick Tracy. They're all kind of, or like Green Hornet too, Lone Ranger. Like they've all kind of pittered out over time, and a lot of that has to do with just how that stuff was kind of handled. And in the case of James Bond, like the Daniel Craig stuff, there's some really good stuff there. But there's also stuff where they were trying to like bring it all back around and remake it for like this
Yeah.
time. And it's like, well, unfortunately, you kind of ended up. I mean, a couple of them, it's like they're wannabe Bourne movies. They're not exclusive to feel like James Bond. Some of it is supposed to feel not real. And especially when you look back at the 60s and 70s, like you look at some of his gadgets, and then it's like, well, you can do some of that shit now on your fucking cell phone. So why try to treat this stuff like, oh, look, and it's like, how much of this shit you can, hey, I can track this person. It's like, oh, it's a homing tracker. And like the 60s, it was like, oh, cool. And it's like, they sell that shit on fucking eBay and Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they shouldn't, it's like, hey, put a tracker on a stranger's car. And it's like, ew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like, oh, big no-no. But I think sooner or later it was going to have to evolve or morph. I think, and this is my 2 cents, obviously they're not going to hire me for any of that stuff, but I feel like it needs to kind of go forward because the best bonds exist in a very specific time space. And I think a lot of it has to do with they were able to make them fun and whimsical. Like the last one, No Time to Die. I enjoyed a lot of it. And yes, it was 3 hours long. Exactly. Morgan brings up a great point. I love the gadgets from the 60s. So creative. Yeah. Like, the gadgets are a part of Bond. And there's so many of those gadgets that don't exist the way we see it anymore because technology has caught up with the things back then that were fiction. And now it's like, well, no, that shit exists.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about this. Like, when they first took the first picture of a black hole, and it's like, well, you would think that'd be some secret squirrel shit. Like, this type of scientific knowledge and, like, studying this. The second they tabbed the picture, they put it out on the fucking internet. Everybody saw what a black hole looked like when it was photographed with the technology we have now. So, I think you need to get back to a time that's very, very specific to when Bond captured the imagination. And it was like, wouldn't it be cool if that existed? And even if it was like, a period piece, of course, people will be like, oh, well, they think that's cool. And it's like, but that's where it existed. That's where people did think that stuff was cool. Not like now where it's like, well, yeah, we have that. But No Time to Die, that one, a lot of them started getting more realistic and broody. Cause like when they did Casino Royale, they went with kind of a realistic tone. Like more grounded. And it was cool the first time. And then they tried to carry that over. And then a lot of why that didn't work going forward was because it took away the mystique of the suspension of disbelief. It took away the fun. It took away the whimsy. And the last movie they had, they fucking killed Bond off. Which is like, and I remember sitting in the theater, and I don't know if people heard me, but I was like, fuck you. I don't go to a Bond movie to watch him die.
Right.
He's an operative. He's a spy. He's an adventurer. I go to see him get out of shit that he probably shouldn't get out of. And it's fun
Mhm.
to watch that stuff develop. As opposed to, yeah, I'm just going to sit here and wait for a missile to go up my ass and try to treat him as a martyr and treat him as like, you know, this type of character where he's more noble and stuff. And it's like, he's a spy and an assassin first and foremost. He's not
Mhm.
particularly noble in the true
Right.
sense. You know, they I think they need to find that stride and that balance again. And I find it
See, but they
very
won't. I don't think they'll be able to because anybody, and I'm sorry, I know this just popped into my brain, but it just seems like with all these movies that they say, they do all the requels or the legacy sequels, whatever it is, because they try to capture what was before, and you can't. It's like that you can't. Not to the level that it was before.
yeah.
That like you can't go back, and that's the problem, and that sucks.
Well, I don't think you need to go back, but I think you need to at least maybe find that tone.
Mhm,
Because there was something about that tone that worked. And I think there was some directors that really could have done it justice. And it's super frustrating kind of learning now. Like the Broccoli's never gave a director final cut. That's why they worked with more journeyman directors so they could have more of a hand on the wheel than the creative party. It's like just point the camera at it. And it's like okay, but believe it or not, like Christopher Nolan after Tenet reached out to
mhm,
them and was trying to be like, hey, and he is a huge Bond fan. Like he is an
mhm.
encyclopedia of Bond. And they basically were like, nah, we're good. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that Christopher Nolan is a guy who gets final cut.
And
You
that's
know,
a shame. See, I thought that, and I guess this is just me being naive. I thought that all directors, well, aside from the Halloween 6 debacle, but like all directors got final cut for the most part. That was my impression
they
always.
really well, and that depends on the director because you have to be able to have that ability, that wiggle room. But in the case
Mhm,
of a lot of directors, you're making something for someone.
right.
And because you're talking about millions upon millions of dollars at stake, you still have to answer to somebody. And it's always, it's unfortunate because yeah, creative vision somewhere can get lost in the dollars and cents. And no surprise.
Mhm,
But I also know that you can't help but to kind of like some of the stuff you go back and it's like, well, what got left on the cutting room floor? Like these guys were, like they had a vision. And then the Broccolis, that's why it's so crazy to me how the Broccolis kind of bemused themselves. And this is just my
mhm.
opinion. Obviously, I don't know enough to go with what behind the scenes, but it's like you're still shooting for a particular endpoint. Like if you really wanted something artistic, if you really felt that way around Bond, you would spend as much as possible and wouldn't care if the movie made 10 fucking dollars. And we
Mhm.
know that's bullshit.
Oh, yeah, they,
Because if it's not
they
making
wanna
money, then
make
that
money.
means nobody's fucking watching it.
Right, right. They want that money, so
Yeah. And I it's one of those things that's like just be straight up about it. Like don't try to fool us. And now and I know there's a lot of people who doesn't like that Amazon is behind the steering wheel of Bond franchise. And for me, it's like, well, let's see what they can do. And I say that
mhm,
knowing that they're going to have spin-off series and they're going to have they're going to have different takes and they may have one-off stuff. But considering how long it takes for a Bond movie, like in some ways it feels almost generationally. Like between each movie, it's like some cases it's like 5 years. And now technology and entertainment kind of move at a point where if you're not churning something out, you're probably not going to know you exist.
Right.
And Bond is a perfect example. And it sucks that now we don't live with anticipation. You know, if a series takes like longer than 2 years to come back, we're like, what the fuck? Like, what do you mean I gotta wait this long? There used to be a time though, not seemingly, or at least it didn't feel like that long ago, where anticipation was like, you got ready for it. You talked about it. And you talked about it in a better light than, oh, fuck, hurry up. It was, nah, man, this shit's coming. This is gonna be fucking awesome. I love I love, thinking about how this is going to go. And yes, there were times where expectations didn't get met, but that's kind of all part of the process. Now it's like, well, you better fucking nail it, you know, especially now that they just, hey, get this done, get this done, get this done. And it's because now all these companies have to compete with each other. They've kind of been a beggar to their own demise because now it's like this case of, well, shit. If how do I put it? Streaming became such a big deal, especially during the pandemic. But now it's like, well, how long is streaming going to be in the red before making anything? So they're going to keep churning out content, but now it's like, well, they're doing this and they're doing that. And the kind of money they're throwing at it is insane for not being at a movie theater. And then they're
Right.
like, "Oh, well, movie theaters are suffering." And it's like, but it's the movie studios that now make streaming content, things they don't put in the movie theater because they've done a lot of kind of punching themselves in the face, intentionally or unintentionally. So Amy R writes, they've done a good job with the original movies and TV series. I say give them a chance. It'll probably be a banger. Agreed. I think they kind of need a little nudge of invigoration. And for me personally, I'm one of those types where it's like, and especially the way the last movie ended. Like, we knew it was going to be rebooted, but also for a lot of fans, it felt like the door was closed. And yes, once again, they were going to reboot it. Nobody was questioning that.
Yeah.
However,
Well, because they knew Daniel Craig was done at that point, I guess.
yeah, but to kill him off,
hmm
the character kind of, I mean, when you think about like hardcore fans, they're watching
Yeah,
they're watching their idol, their icon die, regardless if it's gonna
and
be rebooted or not. And that was Daniel Craig's way of putting his stamp on the series. And it's like, and as much as I adore Daniel Craig and he's like number 2 on my man crush list, I'm like, dude, fuck you. Like, sorry, Bond's bigger than you are. And yeah, you've made a ton of money and you've made quite an impression within the franchise, but you are not the fucking franchise. And
yeah,
for
and speaking,
and for people who
why did
claim,
Broccoli go along with that?
well,
Like
that was
that's
my next
another
question.
thing.
Well, that was my next question because if they're in such control, I think they just wanted, because Skyfall was the first Bond movie to make $1 billion.
Okay.
So they were like, you know, we got to hang on to this. We got to get this money train going as
hmm
much as humanly possible. And for me, it's like, yeah, that's all fucking hunky dory. But also, let's be clear, one person is not the franchise. And I just hate the fact that that was the kind of leeway they gave him. I think personally it was kind of bullshit.
hmm
Like, that he was very much like, well, no, you got to kill him off. And it's like, okay, well, they talk about how much their control was so important to them. And it's like, but then you let this person dictate because you want him back. And it's like, I would have cut him loose.
Yeah.
Personally, I would have, I mean, honestly, I would have been like, sorry, Daniel, go fuck off, dude.
Yeah. We're not killing Bond. That's
Well, and it, especially when we all know better. Like we knew they were going to reboot it anyway
mm,
because they've rebooted Bond before. It's not like it's a new ideal, but even rebooting it, you didn't kill him off. And for the diehard fans, it just feels like a
mm,
slap in the face. Even though
right.
yes, it's a movie character. But it goes back to my main point with the last movie. Like you name it No Time to Die and then he fucking dies. Apparently there was time for that, assholes.
Apparently.
Well, yeah, and it's just like people, I mean, it's a cinema idol character and you kill him off because you could and you wanted somebody to come back around and you didn't leave a door open for it just to be able to go, okay, maybe he died, maybe he didn't. No, he had a fucking missile rammed up his ass. And
Yeah,
at
he's
the end
dead.
of the day, yeah, he'll just put some Mercurochrome. He'll put some NyQuil on it. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
Um, but it goes back to just the ideal that these and yes, there are people who've replaced iconic roles and done better or worse than others before them. But the
Mm,
role's still the role. Like there's been multiple Batmans, there's been multiple Supermans. There's been
right.
multiple Spider-Mans. Like the character is iconic, sure, but the actor is not the character.
No.
Very synonymous. We get that, except for George Clooney with Batman, whatever the fuck that was about. But but
hmm
it is very much a case of it's like no, you need to see it as bigger than. And yes, it's nice to have the person who makes you money and yada yada yada. But I felt like the Broccoli's Eon Productions did not want to start from scratch again. They wanted to get one more going with Daniel Craig and try to milk that calf. And it's like, and in my mind, it's like, well, what's your over under at that point? Because he's asking you to kill off the character. So he's like, hey, look what I did. And
hmm
then you still have to figure out a way, like you're going to reboot it, sure. But now you have to be like, okay, how does that look? Like
Right.
with Amazon, like now the ideal of the reboot feels more legitimized. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where it's like, well, yeah, of course you're going to reboot it now. It's under a completely different banner, and they're going to do
hmm
whatever they're going to do with it. So that
Right.
tracks.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
that see, why didn't they just call it instead of No Time to Die, why didn't they just call it Time to Die? Just call it Time to Die.
well, and it was rumored. I think it was after Skyfall, or during Skyfall, but I
Mhm.
guess I guess it was in Daniel Craig's head for a while to have Bond be killed off.
Really?
Yeah, and it's just
'Cause see,
I,
I
I
never
mean,
realized that he gave that directive. I never realized that.
yeah, he had pushed that for a while.
Hmm.
So for it to happen, I mean, it had to come from somewhere. And I don't think the Broccolis were the first to go, hey, let's kill off the cash cow. And once again, the role and the actor are two different things. But it didn't
Mhm.
seem like the case here. Because who walks into a meeting and go, hey, this character that you've made billions of dollars for
Mhm.
decades. Let's kill him off and let's kind of shake things up a little bit. And maybe that was his thought. It's like, oh, well, they're not going to see that coming, even though there were
Right.
reports years before they killed them off that Daniel Craig was pushing the ideal. And the Broccoli's were like probably pushing against it. But the movies had made so much money under him where he was able to flex that, and they
Mhm.
were able to, and they decided to agree to it. But also the movies were getting more expensive because by the time you get to Skyfall and Spectre and No Time to Die, you're in the 200 million to 250 million plus range. And at that
Mhm.
point I'm like, then let him go. Like, if we don't make another Daniel Craig movie, he'll have 4, made a ton of
Mhm.
money. Our stock is up as far as the character, and we can start
Mhm.
again
Right.
because they've done it in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes no sense that they, because I mean, I don't know what his salary was for those
Oh,
like
I think
movies.
by the last one it was like 25 million.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's I mean,
the first movie he
I
made like 3 or 4 million, and that was Casino Royale. That was what, 2006.
2006, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that, I mean, see when you're paying an actor, like just one actor, that much money, it's like, you know, I mean, it just seems like a lot.
yeah. Well, and especially, you pay them that much money to have that much control over your thing. Like that feels a little bass backwards.
Yeah.
That's like, hey, let me give you a ton of money. Oh, by the way, could you please be in charge of everything?
Yeah,
Could you
and it
please be the one to tell us what to do? Could you do that? Yeah, I don't get that at all.
yeah, yeah, especially with broccoli and that. It just seems that just seems against, like, totally against how they work. They won't give a director they won't give Christopher Nolan final cut, but they'll let Daniel Craig say, "Hey, kill him."
Yeah,
And okay, sure.
yeah.
Makes no sense.
It's I feel like they just gave in to his demands looking at like the track record because believe it or not, so believe it or not, the ideal to
Mhm,
reboot Bond in a gritty fashion, in a more grounded fashion,
mhm.
came from Batman Begins.
So from Nolan itself, it
Exactly. Like, yeah,
wow.
hey, thanks, Christopher Nolan, for like inspiring us. Hey, I'd like to direct a Bond movie. No. Yeah. Isn't that weird that the person who technically, or as the reports would go, inspired the
Yeah.
gritty reboot finally was like, okay, you guys got the cue from me, apparently, to go that
Mhm,
route. I'm your guy. Like, literally, I made a movie that was apparently your inspiration to go in this direction. Nah, we're cool. All right. So we'll see. Apparently, Amazon is going to fast track this bad boy very quickly. A rated Bond R would be awesome. Amen. I Bond, like in my view, the real Bond was a cold, smooth
mhm.
son of a bitch.
Yep.
And just the thought of making him softer and brooding doesn't work. I there is some merit to like looking at the emotional side of him, but once
Mhm,
again, it's like you don't watch it like No Time to Die. Like he has a daughter and he gets like softer, and it's like you don't watch Bond. You don't you don't sign up for Bond to watch him go through a midlife crisis because that's kind of what he
right.
does when you stop and kind of break it down.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. It almost doesn't make sense.
Nope,
So
not at
for
all.
me, it's just okay, guys. Whatever you're gonna do. I I I think Amazon is going to. I think Amazon is going to go in somewhat of a different direction, but I also know. Give me the martinis and the bikinis and lots of headshot scene. Amen.
Hmm.
Like there's just something about especially the latter Bond movies where they lose a lot of that. Like I don't watch Bond to be touchy feely and huggy. It's like no, there's just something intoxicating about a guy who would like bang a chick and then possibly kill her the next second. Like
Yes.
there's that cold calculatedness and just kind of slick ruthlessness, if you will, is fucking fun to watch.
Hmm.
By the time you get to kind of a certain point in the 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 Daniel Craig ones, they really started like making it like Pepsi. Like we have to get everybody to like this, and it's like, yeah, you have a character that's inherently from a different time, and
Hmm.
you're more worried about like outside interests than like the actual character. Somewhere along
Hmm.
the way, like a lot of what they thought about the character changed, obviously. But it's like, well, let's make a more of our time Bond. And it's like the very root of the character is not of this time. You don't
Hmm.
need to make him a total asshat per se, but you don't necessarily have to make him all, like, oh, it has to be endearing to this group or this demographic and yada yada yada. Not
Hmm.
everything's for everybody. That's kind of the
Yep.
point. You can't make a horror movie without blood and go, well, it was supposed to be for everybody, but somebody's 85-year-old grandma just didn't fucking care for it. Why? Because she didn't like fucking horror movies. Like, not everything is for every audience. That's
Right.
kind of the point.
Hmm.
That's kind of how cinema and art is supposed to work. Like, there is a subjectiveness, or there is kind of an angle to where not everybody is going to fall in line with that. Not everybody is
Hmm.
going to like it the way others would like it and go, oh, hey, that's cool. It's like, no, no, that's not how any of that works. So for me, I think Amazon's really going to look at this in such a way and kind of, I mean, obviously, we're going to get a new movie sooner than later. They're going to fast track this fucker quick. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We'll probably get some type of spin-off series, which I've been kind of hoping for, like a Q branch series or something. I'm
Hmm.
kind of I'm kind of cool with that. Um, and as far as like the whole product placement thing, because it's Amazon, hey, last time I checked, and for those who remember and are actual Bond fans, uh, guys, do, do you remember all the product placement between the Aston Martins and the BMWs and the Smirnoff vodka and the Heineken beer
Hmm.
and the Omega watches and the
Hmm.
Versace suits so when people are like, "Oh, the product placement and they're going to sell this." Nothing new under the sun. In
Yep.
this particular light, or in this particular case, you can't sit there and fault Amazon for something that was already being done long before Amazon fucking came around.
Right. Hmm.
So I hope they pull it off. I mean, being being what I consider somewhat of a Bond fan for many, many years, like so many of us,
Hmm.
um, I think they have a tough task. Probably tougher than people realize. Especially if you were the kind of fan that saw the last movie and went, "What the fuck?"
Hmm.
And the
Thankfully,
idea
I
of it now
didn't
being
see it.
And now the ideal of it being rebooted, especially under another banner like Amazon, it just kind of makes sense. But of course, now the speculation now turns to, of course, well, who's going to be the next Bond? So, and I have a few people I'd like to see, but it also is going to go on. It's also going to depend on what direction they go.
Yeah.
Because I can already imagine they're throwing gobs of money at this to get it off the ground.
Now, I know Christopher Nolan's doing the Odyssey,
Correct.
so he's tied up. Do you
He
think?
might be into that, yeah.
Well, I'm like, do you think that if Amazon threw him enough money, that there would be a way that he could kind of hold the Odyssey? I mean,
No,
I don't know what studio is that? Is that for Warner Brothers or is
no.
that Paramount
So Warner Brothers and Nolan are
or
not on.
Universal? I think that might
It's
be.
Universal, yeah, along
Yeah, because he's
with Oppenheimer, because he jumped ship,
right. Right.
and
Yeah, that.
and there was talk, there was hope at one point to get him back with Warner Brothers because the man had made movies with them for close to 20 years. And with the whole Tenant, and that was just a goofy situation in and of itself. But truly, part of the big issue was just I think they had got kind of tired of each other, and
Mhm.
Nolan was one of those. Nolan was one of those directors who had earned them so much money, and really, became synonymous with the studio, especially with Batman. And then when they were
Right.
taking, DC in the direction they did, even then, his name was attached to some of the projects. They gave him a
Mhm.
credit to go, oh, look, he had a hand in this. And it's like, dude, probably not. They just put his name there.
Right.
But in the wake of Oppenheimer, like he has no reason to go back to Warner Brothers. Now, the Odyssey is with Universal, and that's all
Mhm.
ramped up into production in Malta. So he'll be doing that one for a minute.
Right.
But part of the key here is, Nolan isn't the biggest fan of streaming services, and of course,
Mhm.
Amazon has a very connective streaming service.
Yeah, definitely.
And we also know that a lot of things that are going to be going forward with the Bond franchise will
Mhm.
be connected to streaming.
Right.
So it is going to be a case that negotiation is probably going to hinder greatly on like the theatrical release and stuff like that. And Amazon they can obviously put it wherever they want. They're the ones releasing it. But if you could get Christopher Nolan attached to a Bond movie, why wouldn't you put it in the theater?
Right. At that point,
Like he's one of
that
the
would
few
be
yeah, he's one of the few guys who can walk into a room now and they just go, "Okay." Like
yeah.
who's like the studios may not always be big on whatever ideals he has, but honestly, he walks into a room for a pitch meeting, who the fuck's gonna tell him no? Especially now
Yeah.
that
I
he's
would like
officially an
to
Oscar winner and I mean, even before that, but also,
I would like
compared
to
to well, and we've talked about, like, how
I'm
a
sorry.
lot of movies have, like, names attached to people we don't
Mhm.
know who the fuck they are.
Mhm.
Like, you hear about them, and they put them on the poster, but it's still like, "Wait, what did they do? Like, what are they attached to? What is this shit?" And in the case of Christopher Nolan, at least from a cinematic standpoint, like, going to a movie, that still holds up.
Mhm.
That's still like, okay, I will I will take that money. I'll throw $250 million at whatever project he wants to do. He could do a
Mhm.
fucking iteration of the goddamn Teletubbies. Here's your check, dude.
Mhm.
Clever Nunu or whatever the fuck you're gonna do,
Mhm.
And then of course it'll have to have like Hans Zimmer, laying on his organ. Brrr,
Mhm. There
brrr,
you go. Yeah.
brrr. So we'll see what Amazon does. I mean, I'm kind of excited for what comes next. Just to kind of see what's possible,
Mhm.
I guess you could say. So the lesson at hand tonight, is a tribute to an actor who we've talked about before, and talk about somebody we all grew up with, especially during kind of this age in cinema where movie stars used to be a thing. It's crazy to
Yeah.
think we really don't have movie stars anymore, and
No. No.
I love how your organ face looks like your O face. It is. Yes. I yes, I call it the interstellar.
The Interstellar. That's great. The
You wanna hear
Interstellar.
something crazy? As much as I adore Christopher Nolan,
Mhm.
I have not seen Interstellar.
I have not either, so you're
I've
not
never
alone.
seen it, and I have people do that. What I do to them,
Mm.
"What do you mean you've never seen Interstellar? What the
Mhm.
fuck? What's wrong with you?" Um,
It
but
just seems really different.
I kind of know what it's about. I kind of got the gist, I guess you could say, of what happens. And I don't
Mhm.
think that spoiled it for me. Like I said, I've just never landed on it and go, okay, now's the time. With some movies, that's what ends up happening, where I have to get to that point. And when I do, in a lot of cases, I was like, okay, that's actually one movie I've seen. I'm excited for it, but I just haven't gotten there yet. I don't know what to tell you. I guess you know what? I'm holding out for the Teletubbies remake that I hope he does. Like, do that, dude. But
Mhm.
we don't have movie stars the way we used to. But
No.
one that many of us grew up with and just so iconic because he was just a badass. Like, you couldn't help but to think that's what he was really like. Like, maybe he wasn't acting. And that, of course, was Gene Hackman. He passed away recently. And there's some shit circumstances, which is kind of like, it's like toppling a legend. It's like, fuck, that's how he went out. Like, that sucks.
Yeah.
And it's just a reminder that, he was human like all of us. But as far as being an icon, like so many of the roles he did, and for me, obviously the biggest one that will always stand out was Superman. You
Yeah.
know, I with casting, like with that movie, there's they were casting it and doing like press in newspapers before they even started rolling on it. Like they had hired Brando and Hackman
Mhm.
and not started anything yet. And they were already pushing this for like investors and stuff like that. They hadn't even cast Superman. I don't even think they had a script that was finished at that point. And they were like,
Wow.
"Hey, you want to see this movie?" And it's like, "What movie?" There's a great story with Hackman. He tells it about Richard Donner,
Mhm.
and that's one of those where it feels like it's a different time because they hired Richard Donner, and that man, I mean, made you know art. Like that's a piece of like pop culture art from a comic
Right.
book, in my opinion. Like it still holds up, and even now more feels like a period piece. But like that was that was Superman, you
Mhm.
know. And as much as I love like Henry Cavill's take and stuff, like there was just something about Christopher Reeves where it just like it's seamless. It's like that's him. Period. Dot. But he talks about so when he showed up to set, Gene Hackman had a mustache and Richard Donner had a mustache, and they had
Mhm.
talked before he had even gotten to the set about keeping the mustache, shaving it, stuff like that. And Dick Donner was
Mhm.
like, I want you to shave it. Like he doesn't have a mustache in the comic book.
Right.
And Hackman had kind of pushed back, like, hey, I've grown it. I wanted to keep it and stuff like that. So he gets to the set, same thing. And Richard Donner goes, I'll make a deal with you. He goes, if you shave your mustache, if you get rid of your mustache, I'll get rid of my mustache. He says, okay. So he goes to makeup, shaves, gets ready, comes back to the set. And Gene Hackman goes, okay, I shaved. Now you keep up your end of the bargain. And Dick Donner goes, and he pulls off a fake mustache to get him to get Gene Hackman to shave.
Mhm.
And that's the beauty, that's the smarts of the guy. And Gene Hackman was known not for being kind of a pushy asshole, but like he approached his craft in a very specific way.
Mhm.
And for some people it was a little much to work with, but it wasn't like, you know, he was like some of these actors, but he wasn't exactly like a pushover either. But what made Hackman so great is that the guy could take reading a phone book and go with it in such a way to where you were pushed in. And I think what's so crazy is in the first Superman especially, like, yes, his head gets shaved and towards the end, but through most of it he has hair, and at no point through the whole movie do you like go, well, that's not Lex Luthor.
Mhm.
Like he just how he was, he encapsulated that, as being such a huge foil, such a huge difference between, because it was supposed to be, mind over muscle. And
Mhm.
and you got that, you could always, so many of his characters, so many of his portrayals, you could just see the gears turning.
Yeah.
Like that's what made it so great. Like with the way he did so many of those characters, you were just kind of like, what's he gonna do next? Like, where's he going with this? What's that?
Mhm.
One that I love that he did an amazing job with was The Firm, where he plays kind of the mentor
Mhm.
to Tom Cruise. And he was just one of those actors where you couldn't take your eyes off him. And one thing he knew how to really instill in a lot of roles was like a sense of humor, a sense of uh just kind of, and it wasn't even like he was being funny. It was just a matter
Mhm.
of he would deliver things in a way where you would kind of laugh at it. Like he
Right.
really knew how to make it his own. Um, One of my favorite movies of him as a whole is, it's a movie where a lot of people like more know about it than have seen it, and I think it's one of Coppola's other masterpieces, and it's The
Mhm.
Conversation.
That I just rewatched that again.
That movie.
Actually, I gotta be honest with you, I think it was the first time because see, a lot of, like, these movies that and it goes with the conversation too, like, I watched them when I was younger,
Right.
and I just, like, didn't get it, couldn't appreciate it, but now going back in my 40s and revisiting them, it's like
Mhm.
you have a new appreciation, like, you look and you see things and you, like, you just, like, kinda take it all in, and that's what it was for me with the conversation. I think it was Tuesday night that I watched that, and that was like the first time that I had really seen it,
Right.
and it was incredible.
Yeah. Still holds up amazing, and a lot of the themes and things they approach and
Mm,
kind of work with still hold up today.
yeah,
As far as like what's out there and what they're capable of. And it's crazy because it is a movie of Coppola's that is not flashy. Like a lot of people know how good it is, how great it is, but it's not Godfather 1 or 2, and
right.
it's not Apocalypse Now. So it doesn't, I think for a lot of people, it doesn't register as like a big, like, oh, and it's like, no, this movie is like legit. Like this is one of those movies that straight up like bananas. It's so
Right.
fucking it's so fucking well done in such a way to where it's like, no, you should be watching this. Like, it's pretty
Hmm.
badass. And I just think for a lot of audiences, it just doesn't connect that way until you really. I rewatched it about a month ago,
Mm,
and I still like it. Still gets me, and he is very much Hackman is very much the glue that holds that movie together.
right. Oh, definitely, definitely for that one. And then there was another one that he did. Um, it was in '72 called Prime Cut with Lee
Ah,
Marvin and Sissy Spacek. Did you see that one?
I so that is one that I've known existed for like ever.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure I haven't seen it. I don't recall.
I sought it out for because I wanted to see it for a while. Um, it just got a 4K release from Kino Lorber
Oh
or
wow.
however they say it, and it's so he plays like this mobster who owes money, and he really has no intention of paying that money. So Lee Marvin is like an enforcer who was sent to kind of like collect from Hackman. So it was, it was different like seeing him like play that. I like seeing him in that type of a role just because I, you know, um it was different from, you know, other things that I've seen him in. Plus, so yeah, and he's like a really like sleazy guy. Like he runs this operation where these girls he basically has them like cattle and like sells them off to other men.
Ugh.
And Lee Marvin actually takes Sissy Spacek like out of that and kind of you know um like takes her like out of that life kind of, and just it's that was kind of different to see. And then there is like a scene where Lee Marvin and Sissy Spacek are like running through a field, and a harvester is coming after them. I actually made a reel of that scene because some of Lee Marvin's guys or whatever, they jump out of the car and they send the car to like into the harvester, so the
Mhm.
harvester like takes apart the car. And I actually made a reel, like a clip of that scene, because I had never seen that happen in a film before, where you literally see this harvester. I'm pretty sure that's what they call it.
Right.
You see the harvester like destroy the car.
I have to check that out.
Yeah, it was it was pretty good. It was definitely pretty good. And what else?
I
Oh
love
yeah.
looking at his filmography
Mm-hmm.
because the man was in. I mean, like any actor, like he made some good ones and he made some like what the hell? What is this? But
Yes.
well, hey, I mean, he got to pay the bills like anybody else.
True.
But especially when he had his resurgence
Mm-hmm.
after like Unforgiven. And his resurgence was starting little by little to kind of come up, but after he won his second Oscar,
Mm-hmm.
there was kind of, an uptick. And there are two movies that kind of go back to back, actually three movies that go back to back as far as being released that I
Mm-hmm.
love of his. And it is very much a case of like when he was in that sweet spot, when he was there,
Yeah.
he was there. So 95 Crimson Tide.
Mm-hmm.
That fucking movie is bananas. And I remember seeing it in the theater. And of course, when you watch it, it's like, oh, okay, so it's like a war movie. And it's actually not a war movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like at all. Um it kind of plays with this moral ambiguity type of deal where you know what's right may not be right and what's wrong may not be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then he was in Get Shorty,
Right.
which I I like the book better, but I did like where this went treatment wise.
Mm-hmm.
Like I enjoy the movie a lot. Um, and it kind of went in a direction I was kind of surprised, in a good way surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, and I love this because this is one of those things. It's like because he was always such a stern presence in a lot of his movies, but also enjoyable and relatable. And the fact
Mm-hmm.
that this movie got him in drag is fucking awesome. The Birdcage.
Yeah. No, that was a classic.
I
That
rewatched
was
that
that
a few
was.
days ago with his passing, and he's
Mm-hmm.
amazing in it. And the movie now more hits than ever, and it's still very sweet.
Right.
And it's funny how, and I was always a big fan of like Mike Nichols, but he was one person who knew how to put like those type of directors who really know how to put their stamp on something.
Mm-hmm.
And one movie of his, not to really go off track here, but he made a horror movie that wasn't a horror movie, but
Mm-hmm.
still fit that space very well. And maybe you remember it, but it was with Michelle Pfeiffer and Jack Nicholson called Wolf.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
was that was kind of Mike Nichols' take on horror movies. And it was amazing just how well it was done, and it's the same guy who did The Birdcage. Mike Nichols,
Yeah.
God rest his soul as well. Such a great director and a great storyteller. And it was funny because he worked that man worked with so many people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Pacino, Nicholson. He was he was very sought after for so long with a lot of the movies he made. Yeah, he died in 2014. You know,
Oh wow, it's been that long already.
yeah. Well, and it was funny because I remember when I I I remember he was because he was one of those directors that like he didn't make. I mean, he made a lot of great stuff, but he didn't
Mm.
rush to make like a ton of movies. Like he kind of
Right.
made things on his own terms.
Mm-hmm.
Like Silkwood and Biloxi Blues and
Biloxi Blues, love that one.
yes, amazing play, but like his take on it, like just
Mm-hmm.
so well done. And that's what's kind of crazy. Like, some directors don't have the biggest filmographies, but Mike Nichols had made movies since because his first one was crazy enough. Like it's crazy to think it was like his first movie. And obviously he had worked in Broadway and stuff like that too. But
Mm.
his first movie was Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and you're like, really?
Yeah.
That was his first movie?
I didn't realize that was wow.
Yeah. And then The Graduate, and then Catch 22. That was like his first three movies, and you're like, but his entire filmography
Mhm.
of I mean, just as a whole,
Mhm.
the man had the man had 21 credits to his name as a director.
Mhm.
And it's kind of weird because you're like, wait, so what else did he do? Well, he also like acted and wrote and produced and stuff like that. But it's still
Mhm.
kind of funny looking back and him making so many great things, but also like he was he was very specific of the
Mhm.
things he did. And it's crazy because you look at, I mean, the man made dramas and comedies and like artsy fartsy pieces and a horror movie that kind of wasn't a horror movie and
Mhm.
uh you know definitely a very unique career and one of those directors, the kind that I really appreciate, where it's like, yeah, you'll do things within a genre,
Mhm.
but you'll put your stamp on it.
Right.
So yeah, stuff like that I've always appreciated, I've always enjoyed. um but back to Hackman, like, he was in Young Frankenstein, and
Yeah.
just it's crazy to think, like, and once again it kind of goes back to, not every movie they're going to make is going to knock it out of the park. Not every
Mhm.
movie is going to be as legendary as we feel they are.
Mhm.
But his last movie before he decided to retire from acting was Welcome to Mooseport, this comedy with Ray Romano, and it's not very funny.
Well, I mean, it's no night moves.
No, definitely not. It's no
Have you
Bernstein.
seen that one?
Yes. Oh, that one's good.
Yeah, that one. I just yeah, I watched that one too. That was I think that was Melanie Griffith's, if not her first film, one of her first. Same with James Woods, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, that was because I had never seen that one before, but I I think I bought that on Prime because they had, because I wanted to watch it. So that oh, and then okay, he was in a movie. Now I don't know. This was obviously before his resurgence, but I believe it was after Mississippi Burning. So I don't know
I love that movie.
how classic, classic, classic. But this movie was made in it was made in 1988. It starred him, Terry Garr, and Burgess Meredith, and also Elias Cotis, who played Casey Jones in the original Ninja Turtles movie. And he's been in other stuff over the years too. I believe he was in The Prophecy with Christopher Walken, the first one.
Oh, is it
Um,
Full Moon in Blue Water?
yes, 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 yes. I got this because I saw Burgess Meredith was in it, and I said, I haven't seen many movies with Burgess Meredith, and I would just really be interested to see how this would play. And it's not like a typical rom-com. Like Hackman plays this guy who like his wife died.
Right.
I think there was some accident where she died at sea, and they hadn't found her body or something, and he's trying to keep this bar like afloat that they both owned or something, and he still can't get the thought of his wife out of his head and all this stuff, watching the home movies and stuff like that. But Burgess Meredith was I don't every time I see him, he just reminds me of either Mickey or the penguin. That's anytime I see him, that's just yeah, I can't see him as anything else. And this is no different. But have you ever seen this one or no?
I think I've seen it once because I remember at one point they played it on cable quite a bit.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm saying. It's an MGM movie,
Right.
and this was like one of those MOD like manufactured on demand disc. It's where they
Gotcha.
just like you order it and then they slap it on a disc and like there's no features on it. Like you just slap it in, there's a menu and it says play and you hit play and the movie starts and that's it. But it's one of those like I don't know. I felt like, after watching the conversation and after watching Night Moves and um the prime cut, I just wanted something lighter. And that was when I messaged you and I said that I had just started my second Hackman film of the day. That
Right.
was the film that I started watching.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that you really look at. I mean, like many careers, there's different tangents where they kind of do different things, and some of it is like when it's released, not necessarily when they did it, but like especially
Right.
that stretch between you know Crimson Tide, Get Shorty, and um, the Birdcage.
Mhm.
Like he was in the sweet spot. He was in the zone,
Yeah.
and and then you have him ending his career. It's crazy how for some people, it's like, well, I gotta end my career on this note, however they might see their career. And then you have people like Hackman and like Sean Connery, who had they had an experience for whatever reason that basically was like, fuck it, I'm out. They were like,
Well,
fuck this shit. I'm like, I'm out.
do you think Welcome to Mooseport kind of pushed him over the edge where he's just like, "Mm, done?
Well, he was in his when he did when it was released, I guess you could say, Welcome to
Mhm.
Moose. He was in his early 70s.
Right.
So, he was I mean, he was probably more than happy to have kind of the resurgence he did because I mean, he did a huge chunk of movies in a very short amount of time.
Mhm.
So it probably took a toll, but also, you know, I think and in the case of both of them, like it was the early 2000s, they were like, fuck it, we're out. And I'm wondering if it had something to do with them reaching a point where they saw the industry going in a direction that didn't suit them or suit how they were accustomed to making movies. And that would
Right.
make sense because when you look at like about halfway through the 90s and you see like Jurassic Park and you see all these movies that really start incorporating special effects in such a way
Mhm.
where it becomes more the focus than what you do on set and kind of becomes more stringent. Like, you
Mhm.
have to stand here, you have to talk to this tennis ball, and you have to do this because the animators, when we take this stuff in post for like the next 6 months, are going to have to do
Mhm.
this and gonna have to do that. So I can kind of see where if you were accustomed to working a certain way, you were not accustomed to the ideal of talking to somebody in green pajamas that you did
Right.
not see. And that later you were going to have to be like, wait, what the fuck is this?
Mhm.
Um, and people could obviously see it as, the ideal of oh, well, they're just old and antiquated. And it's like, well, maybe they're older and maybe they're used to doing things a certain way. But also keep in mind, once effects took off the way they did, Hollywood didn't look back.
Mm.
And over time, and I think it's actually gotten worse as time's gone on, where you have all these effects houses creating some great visuals,
Mm.
but then audiences, if you overload an audience, they're going to get very stoic.
Right.
You can't just sit there and keep clubbing them on the head with this shit thinking, oh, well, they want more of this. And it's like, well, they want storytelling first and foremost. They
Mhm.
want to be engaged. They want to escape, but also have relatability. A
Right.
character that they can get behind, or a character they can't get behind, and they would be the antagonist that they don't care for. But they can still
Mhm.
kind of be like, because with some of these movies, part of the fun, because they're like, well, that's just grotesque and awful, and I don't understand it. And it's like, yeah, but sometimes it's kind of like dirty fun, like in a safe way, to
Right.
watch a character be less than endearing
Mm.
and be like, shit, that's fun to kind of watch them be shitty. Like, I can't be
Mm.
that shitty. That's just not who I am. But I can visit this. It's that kind of safe space to be able to do that.
Right.
That's why when people try to like cancel movies from like 50 years ago, I'm like, that's fucking stupid. Like, number one, that was long before your time. And the world was
Mhm.
quite different. And obviously the world is quite different now. But it's trapped in that space. If you don't like the movie, don't watch it.
Yeah.
Especially when people now, that's like, well, now I know better. So now, um, I don't care for this movie. Like the first Revenge of the Nerds. Oh, there's a lot of shit in that first Revenge of the Nerds movie that's pretty fuckered up.
Mhm.
But as a kid, unfortunately, and I know I shouldn't have been watching it, but I watched it and I laughed. I still laugh at it now, but that's the safe space. I know
Right.
not to go out in public and do that shit. I know the
Right.
difference. Suspension of disbelief exists in many forms. And once again, it's a case of, you know, people have to have this moral high ground. Oh, well, I don't like this and I don't like that. Okay, then don't watch it. Like, you're not going to change the movie, and you're not going to, and maybe filmmakers might look back and go, yeah, I wish I had done something different. But getting them to apologize for a decision they made, and
Mhm.
or what? They didn't get your consent, they didn't get your approval on their artistic take. Sorry, tough fucking shit. Of course, one of the best examples even now is Tropic Thunder.
Mhm.
That is still one of the funniest fucking gags of all time with
Mhm.
RDJ.
I agree.
And
Mhm.
the whole point was to bring awareness to how that stereotype became what it was and the treatment from it.
Mhm.
Not the ideal of like, oh, well, you just think it's funny. And it's like, yeah, it's funny in the sense of what they're trying to do, not necessarily what he's doing, and the disconnect that that actor has to do this role because he's from a place like Australia where they don't harp on
Mhm.
this shit and they don't get blackface in that sense.
Mhm.
That's the joke. That's the joke Ben Stiller was going for from the fucking jump. Yes, Amy R. I'm the dude playing the dude disguised as another dude.
Mhm.
When he's talking to Al Pacino and they have that back and forth, and he's like, whatever you say, Mr. Dingo, Dingo took my baby. You know that was a national tragedy, right? We all cried.
Mhm.
I don't know why you would joke about that. There's no cameras, you don't have to talk like that anymore. Man, I don't drop character until I do a DVD commentary.
There we go. S Oh, shit, yeah. Damn, now I wanna watch that again.
Yeah, he was, and I've told this story before when I saw the picture and I thought that the names were off, and I realized that
Mhm.
it was RDJ, but with the makeup and everything. But
Mhm.
once again, like people seem to forget the point of cinema and what it's supposed to. Oh yes, I love the part with Tom Cruise. Which one's the key grip when they're on that
Mhm.
call? Okay, I want you to go up to that director and punch him in the face really fucking hard. Diet Coke! Fucking Diet Coke!
Oh, that was great. And I still, Simple Jack gets me every time.
Hey, I know about your acting style, but I'm gonna tell you, you never go full retard.
That's great. I love it.
Because think about it. Forrest Gump, Tom Hanks. Look retarded, act retarded. Well, he didn't act retarded. Look how smart he was. Man made a shrimp company. Sean Penn, Sam I Am, full retard. Went home and ended at the Oscars.
That's the greatest. That is the greatest. I love it so much.
I still love though when they're trying to get him when he's trying to get him to cry.
Okay, 10, 9, 8.
No countdown.
No countdown. You're not a rocket ship? All right, we're not going to do a rocket ship.
And then the unedited.
Hey, Mr. Director, I got to go make a pee-pee. You want to come home with Dick?
Oh shit.
When I used to go on social media and like post that I was watching that movie underneath, because I would be like, yeah, one of my favorites. And then I'd be like, yes, this movie's fucking funny. And if you don't think so, you need to go get over your fucking self. Yeah. Yeah, it's still hilarious.
Yeah. No, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's been a few years, but I definitely it's time for a rewatch because I'm overdue.
Yeah, Damien's here, he's fine. Just squibs, and
No, man, that motherfucker's dead. He fucking dead as fucking fried chicken. Oh, give me the map, goddammit.
Or Jack Black with the heroin.
Get your own fucking vitamins.
Yeah, fucking
Oh,
love that movie.
yeah. Yeah.
We fucking lost, man.
Yeah, the unedited version is hilarious because it's not only longer, but like there's a scene and it's fucking hilarious. So in the beginning, when they're talking to the studio about all the fuck ups and going over budget and stuff like that, there's a scene and it's at night, they're having a party, because it's studio money, they're doing whatever. And RDJ is there and he goes up to the director and next to him is two black bodyguards and he's dressed like he's going to a Black Panther party. He's got the leather and the turtleneck and the beret. And he's like,
oh, hey, Mr. Director, good idea. Production's all fucked up. We over budget. 2 weeks in. Let's have a fucking party. Let me tell you something, motherfucker. You better not fuck this up. My next movies better not be video director fucking blockbuster. I'll kick your ass.
And they cut that shit. Oh my god, that shit had me in tears because he's dressed like a fucking Black Panther, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I saw it in the theater like opening weekend, and I adore that movie.
Same here. Same here.
Yeah. Especially when they think they're being filmed, and he's like, I'm gonna just drink some of this booty sweat I picked up in Da Nang.
Oh god.
What'd you say?
I know.
What was his name? Steve? Oh, you motherfucking gay, man. I mean, it's cool if you're gay, but like, you said that shit out loud, man.
Oh, I know what I'm doing tomorrow. That is, I'm pulling that out tomorrow. I gotta watch
I'm
it
not
again.
gay.
Oh, no, I think you gay. Why don't you just come out and say it? You a motherfucker. Run, praise you.
Yeah, and that movie is like from 2008. It's 2025, and so many people, but Ben Stiller needs to apologize because I was offended. Don't watch the fucking movie then. He didn't make it for you. You probably were still an itch in your daddy's fucking pants where your mother should have fucking swallowed. So your overly judgmental, overly fucking pampered ass wouldn't fucking bitch about a movie that was meant to be a comedy and be the way it was for a fucking reason. You little whip shits. I can't help it. Twitter's reality. Well, there's your first bucket problem.
Mhm.
What they said on Facebook hurt my feelings. Well, go get that surgery to go take out your fucking feelings. They're not meeting my needs. Oh, well, you should put down some of your needs. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This generation, we have an apocalypse. We're fucked. You know why? Because there's no
Yeah.
app for it.
Nope. Not at all. Oh,
I
man.
can't
I
watch the
hope
new Mad Max to figure out how my leather bondage suit is supposed to look in the fucking apocalypse. Oh boy, I guess I'm just gonna get ass fucked by a bunch of road raiders. Whee! It's crazy to think the newer generation has like zero fucking survival skills. Zero.
and, yeah.
I didn't eat today. Why? Because there was no reception from my phone for Uber Eats. Fuck you, starve.
Mhm.
Yeah, that hunter gatherer sense of the world. Yeah, over their fucking head. They can't live stream the end of the world. But you know what? They sure as fuck would try, wouldn't they?
Yeah. No, they would.
Yeah. It is so one of the best. So here's one of the best examples. I think I might have told you this before, but I once went to GameStop
Mhm.
and I was getting a game and it was rated M. And I had gone in before that and I had to use the restroom and the kid who was working there, and I do mean kid,
Mhm.
as in the sun was going down and I didn't realize his mom let him stay out that fucking late. They wouldn't let me use the can. I said, "Okay, that's fine. That's his call."
Mhm.
And I held it. I was like, "Okay, I'm good now." So I go to get a game, and he goes, "I need to see your ID." I said, "Okay, in the immortal words of the Virgin Mary, fucking come again." He goes, "I need to see your ID." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because you're getting a mature game. It's maturely rated. We have to card you." And I'm like, "For a fucking video game?" I asked him, I go, "How old are you?" He said 19. I said, "Buddy, I've puked up scotch older than you. Shut the fuck up." And the person next to him, she's like, "He's fine. He's fine." And he's like, "No, I need to see his ID." And I just shake my head. I said, "Here you go." I said, "I tell you what, while you're at it, if you don't think I'm old enough, I'll whip up my nuts and I've got white fucking hair on them and you'll know that I'm old enough. How about that there, squirrely?" And that's when he started sweating and shaking because he knew he asked for something stupid. And it was like,
Right.
well, obviously I'm old enough. Like I have pimples on my taint fucking older than you little shit. And then the whole
I can
time the
imagine.
whole time after that, like, he was starting to shake because he realized, like, he pissed me off and he couldn't handle it because he was probably getting offended. I said, "Do you wanna
But
know how
that
old I am?" I said, "I tell you what, for old people, it's like a tree. I'll open my ass cheeks and you can count how many rings that go to my asshole, and you will count 46 of them because there's 46 rings because 'cause I'm 46 years old, you fucking retard." And he's like, "Have a nice day." I'm like, "You already fucked that up." Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, I fuck with the little bastard. I'm surprised he didn't go cry. I gave him $5 after. I said, "What's this for?" He was like, "What's this for?" I said, "I want you to go to Walmart and get yourself a fucking clue, honey."
Mhm.
And the whole time the girl's
I
laughing, like she's not defending him or anything. She was like, "Yeah, you may be
was
enforcing the rules, but you know, that would be like a firefighter, like not using enough water because they don't think the person's burning enough. It's like, no, we only
Right.
use half water.
Right.
I think you're only going to have
And,
second-degree burns. I don't have to use all the water.
and I'm sure she was
And
older
nobody
than.
told you to be flammable. It's your fucking fault.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she was older than him too. I'm sure.
She was probably by about 4 minutes per squirt. Like, she wasn't much older, but she got the message. She understood the assignment.
Mm-hmm.
But this little kid, and it's Utah, he was some Mormon fucking retard wick prick who didn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. And he was, of course, LDS, which of course stands for lunatics dressed semi-formal. So
Ah.
yeah, you could tell he was so sheltered. When he left
Mm-hmm.
work, he went to go suck on his mom's tit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do they still breastfeed like that? Like
I-
for real out
Here
there?
in Utah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised the way this place
Wow.
goes. The last thing I said to the kid, I said, I just want you to know something. If I was your mother and had a kid like you, I'd still be trying to get the fucking abortion.
Wow. Yeah.
And then he went home and cried
I'm
because
sure.
mom,
Hey,
he made fun of me.
I'm sure he did.
He made
I'm
fun of
sure.
me, and it made me sad. And then I went to my vape pen. You know, my vape pen that looks like I'm sucking on RoboCop's dicky doo. A lot
Uh,
of women still do. They do. That is fact.
wow. I
I mean,
mean,
why not? I mean, if you watch Fury Road, they've got the milk mamas.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Like, fuck
well, I'm
yeah.
surprised that you
Hey,
can
even in the
still.
apocalypse, people got jobs.
Well, yeah. I mean, no, that's true, but I'm surprised like that they produce milk still like that long. Well, I guess
Well, I
if you
think you
keep
can. I mean, if
breastfeeding, you're
you
gonna produce it.
no, shit like that makes me laugh where, like, you look at it from a generational standpoint and you're like, "What happened?" That's what happens when parents started treating their children like cult objects.
Mm-hmm.
The world revolves around you. No, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
You're smart enough. No, he's not. You're
Mm-hmm.
good enough. Never.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because, like, being Gen X, it's like, oh, well, you guys didn't stand for anything. And it's like, well, we were told not to. Like, you don't seem
Mm-hmm.
to understand. We had to figure it out. We had to figure it out like anybody else. And the worst part about it was, more than anything else, was the fact that, we had boomer parents. They were going to remain in charge as long as humanly fucking possible, especially seeing like boomers now who are like holding on with both hands. Well, actually, they can't hold on with both hands because they're mostly very arthritic at this age.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's crazy, like how, especially in a place like Utah, which is loaded with fucking aging, dying boomers. The people who came up with like those catchphrases of, whoever dies with the most toys win. It's like, you're not a fucking pharaoh. You can't take the toys with you. You're
Mm-hmm.
still fucking dead, you dead fuck.
True.
Well, that's their
Very true.
mentality. It's all mine. It was left here for me. There's no future generations. We were handed stuff from the greatest generation in such a way to where we had a free ride for 10, 20 years. And then we had to realize, oh fuck, we're supposed to get jobs. Like, we're apparently not supposed to do LSD and have children at the same time. And it's like, well, that explains some of the kids. Um, but once that happened, they all went self-righteous. That's where they all got super religious, and that's where they all got super condescending, and that's where they got all super controlling, and you know, do as
Mm-hmm.
I say, not as I do. You know, they
Yep.
went from love is all you need to whoever dies with the most toys win. You know,
Yeah.
they
That's
went from free love to just say no. Yeah. Yeah, they decided to be very absentee parental figures, kind of like Sky Daddy.
Mhm.
But it's so cute now watching them all die off. And I know people might be thinking, "Oh, you want to see them die?" And it's like, well, everybody dies. Like, just come to grips with that.
Mhm.
But watching how they still have that, it's still mine. It's still all mine. And you can't take it from me. And it's like, nobody's gonna take anything from you. You're just gonna let go of it. You can
Mhm.
hang on to it with all the might you want with your hands. Doesn't mean you can take it with you. Even the pharaohs, they thought they took it with them. Uh-uh. Shit's still here. They're not. Aha. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's very unique to kind of watch that parental shift. And then, you had my generation where we're still like whatever.
Mhm.
And the thing is too is people are like, "Well, you must like being that way." And it's like, "No, we don't know any other way." And now, especially Gen X is being middle-aged,
Mhm.
what the fuck are we gonna learn? If we had a whatever survivalistic attitude to begin with, where we made the shit up as we go and we did our
Mhm.
best and just kind of
Right.
let shit roll off our back because we had to,
Mhm.
because we had parents that were too self-involved with themselves, which now they are, but they're the ones dying off. And now they're like, well, now we got to worry about the Gen X health crisis. We're not worried. We get it. We are going to go through health crisis shit. Guess what?
Mhm.
Us and everybody else.
Yeah.
That's probably why it's so easy for our generation to have kind of a lackadaisical look at things, but also a tough look at things.
Mhm.
That's why a lot of my generation, like, we joined the military and we went and did hard things so we could just go because we were told none of none of the world is for us. You
Mhm.
go and do this. You got to go to school. You got to get married. You got to have kids. That's the checklist the self-righteous assholes ended up with. Because one, that's what they were told to do. And when they went self-righteous, they were like, well, we'll just take that fucking playbook and we're just going to
Mhm.
do that. So they went and did that to us. And of course, I have two kids. They're wonderful. I love them dearly. Uh, They they are they are quite precious to me. But somewhere down the line, generationally, some figured out I don't have to have kids if I don't want to. I don't have to do this.
Mhm.
But it's still not their choice because it goes back to the cult thing where kids were all pampered.
Mhm.
Safety seats and everything is all safety and stuff like that. I'm sorry, when I was growing up, safety was a 2-point play in the NFL, which it still is. The
Mhm.
ideal of me wearing a helmet to go do something like ride a bike, never. Never. Didn't even cross my parents' mind. I would see kids with helmets and they were like, "You don't need a helmet." I'm like, "But what about my head? What about my squash?" And they're like, "Well, helmets cost money." And I'm like, "Well, I don't have money." And they're like, "Well, then you don't have a helmet." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll be fine."
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but I could see where Hackman and Connery, coming from such a different time of filmmaking, was gonna see the way things went. And they were like, "I made enough money off these motherfuckers."
Mhm.
Like, and especially once you feel like you're done, you can't help but to go, because like when people retire, there's a lot of that. Does it feel that way? Like, is this right? Am I feeling this correctly? Is this really where I intend to be?
Mhm.
And for a lot of people, that's literally what it ends up being. It's like, yep,
Yeah.
it's fucking time.
Mhm.
And nothing wrong with that. I mean, the Beatles didn't stay together forever. You know,
True.
7
Yeah.
albums in 11 years, like, they made that shit happen.
Mhm.
But when they were done, they were done. They never came back for a second helping.
Nope. No, they
But
didn't.
but Hackman was somebody who just commanded your eye. Like, no matter
Mhm.
what he did in a scene, you were I mean, you could watch the man read the phone book.
Yeah.
And looking at his filmography, I just love because there are some stuff you're like, what the fuck was he thinking? Like, house payment, car payment? Like, what did he need? And then there's some stuff it's like that's why he was the guy. That's why he was the legend that he
Mhm.
is and will always be. And now more details are coming out about his death, and it's like, ugh, it's just really unfortunate. And the man made it to 95. Like, talk about having a good fucking run.
Yeah.
But it's also unfortunate because, when you reach a certain age, because I'm a firm believer in the ideal of quality of life. And yes, you want to live as long as humanly possible. All those fucking self-help gurus and all the shit about what's the secret to life, friends or this. And it's like, what the secret of life is? Not dying,
Yep. That's
dumbass.
true. Mhm.
Um, and for me, I'm a firm believer that like quality of life matters. You know, you can keep people alive for so long now, more than we have in the past. But then you look back at like just a couple hundred years,
Mhm.
and, life expectancies were much shorter, and even further back, like half of what they are now. But
Yeah.
like you look forward to where we're at, and it's like, well, yeah, we can keep you alive for another 10 years. You will have to take a handful of medication. You will have to be connected to these probes and devices and all these things,
Mhm.
and ultimately, like, you will be considered alive, but will you be living? And I think that's kind of it almost questions reality when you think about it.
Yeah. Because
Where it's
you'll
like,
just be hooked up to machines.
yeah, and and being at a certain age where it's very unfortunate
Mhm.
to not be in control of yourself. And it's like, yeah, I'm alive, but I'm not living. Like, I haven't left this bed in days or weeks or whatever, and I haven't left this house in days or weeks. And
Mhm.
there's such a huge difference between you're keeping me alive and then I'm living. And it kind of just speaks to the reality of like, what is life?
Mhm.
And even at 95, like, the man was writing books and stuff like that. Like, he was still pretty with it. But it
Yeah.
just sucks the way him and his wife died, and it's like, it's I mean, not everybody goes out in a legendary fashion. Like Evil Knievel, like, you kept thinking the man was gonna go out, like, trying to jump over a building, and he didn't. In the case of Connery, you know, you were kinda thinking like, "Oh, that man's gonna go out, banging some broad." He
Mhm.
didn't. His last year, his health issues had, like, spiraled. And I
Mhm.
think he lived in, like, the Bahamas or something, but he was not in the best way, like, his last year of life.
Right.
So for him to finally, because I mean, he almost completely dropped out of, like, public eye when he retired. Like, when he was done, he was like, "Fuck you guys.
Mhm.
I'm, like, done and then some." Um, Hackman was no different. Like, Hackman stayed in, like, New Mexico, and you could see him here and there, and apparently he was still pretty dialed in, but
Mhm.
I mean, when you're 95, like, yeah, you can still like high and buy, but it's also like, how really dialed in are you? But like 95, like, that's a damn good run.
Mhm.
And
Definitely
especially,
is.
and especially when you look at kind of the latter portion of his career, where it almost felt like I don't want to say he was making up for lost time because I mean the man was in French Connection. I mean, had so many great roles, but especially when he was getting towards the end, like a lot of the movies he was making was like, now I have the freedom as well as the star power, if you will, to do these things. But for him to
Right.
end up something like, Welcome to Moose Sport. I mean, I wonder if like he had other things lined up and he just said, fuck it. Like for whatever reason, he was done. The production was like, nope, fuck you guys, I'm out. And, I think, I mean, in just about any career, when you feel it and you're done, you're done.
Yeah.
You're
Right.
you're ready to hang it up and go fucking fishing. So, but yeah, we lost a great one. And fortunately for us, he left so much great roles and behind. And one thing too, like one of the biggest, I mean, the man was in so many like dramas, but like comedy, like he was fucking funny,
hmm
you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he was
Mhm.
he was just one of a kind. And as the saying would go, they don't make them like that anymore. Oh God,
No, definitely not.
they
Hey,
wouldn't
did
even
you hear what
they wouldn't even know where to begin.
No, not at all. And did you hear now that Bill Murray came out and said that he was, difficult on the set of, Royal Tenenbaums?
He was. He apparently was not a. I mean, unless it was a certain. It seemed like reading some of the way he was with like certain directors on uncertain sets. He was not. He was not exactly a cuddly teddy bear type. I think. I think one thing with him was that he like with certain directors like I either respect you or I don't.
Mhm.
Because I don't think he would strong arm somebody like Clint Eastwood.
Right.
They were kind of probably cut from similar cloth. But if he didn't like certain things, then he didn't like certain things. But a kid, especially in the case of like Wes Anderson, like apparently he
Mhm.
was kind of a dick to him.
Yeah, that's what I was hearing.
Yeah, and Wes Anderson doesn't seem like a very kind of confrontational type, and he seems like somebody who knows what he wants and wants people to be kind of a certain way. I mean, that's why he makes the type of movies he does and has
Mhm.
attracts the type of talent he does. So
Right.
it would totally make sense that Gene Hackman would be kind of like going against the grain. I could
Mhm.
very much see that. But like with some directors, I look at like who they were and stuff, and it's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's not going to give a bunch of shit to like Eastwood. He's not going to give a
Right.
bunch of shit to like Tony Scott. I just don't. I just wouldn't see it.
Mhm.
So, but in some cases, it is chronicled that he was difficult to work with, and like I guess Coppola, he didn't exactly get along with the best,
Mhm.
and I don't think he got along. And I could see that with William Friedkin, like two kind of bold types.
Mhm.
I could see them not being touchy feely
Yeah.
with each other,
Yeah.
and that was also a product of the time of the studios too, where it's like, yeah, we're not, we're actors and actresses were very like dedicated to their craft.
Mhm.
It's not like now where it's like, who is this person and who is that and stuff like that. That's another reason why we don't have movie stars the way we used to. Because we just don't have we just don't have people who do things at that iconic level. And it doesn't help
Mhm.
that social media plays a hand in that, where these people are not very they don't really seem to be out and out interesting, but also like there used to be a firewall there. Like if you were a
Mhm.
movie star, like this was your world and this was our world. And now the lines feel so blurred because social media and because a lot of these actors now do commercials. I remember like the 70s and 80s. Holy fuck. If you did a commercial, at that time as like an actor, like a movie star, and you did a commercial,
Right.
you were you were practically like out of the business. They were like, "Who the fuck are you?" That was
Yeah.
the same. That
Yeah.
was the same thing with either doing a TV show or having a movie go straight to video.
Mhm.
Where it's like, what do you mean no theatrical release? Now it's like, oh, that's going in a movie theater. Like, okay.
Mhm.
Like now it's the opposite. And a lot of that has to do with social media, but also has to do with the streaming services. And now you have so many smaller companies and you have
Mhm.
technology that's gotten very cheap and accessible where you get three people together and you're able to point a camera at them, you can make a movie.
Yeah.
From a quality standpoint, you don't know where that may sit, but also it's like, okay, you can churn this stuff out. A lot
Mhm.
of it ain't going to be great, but you can make it.
Mhm.
And that kind of also goes where now it's like, especially looking at like his filmography, this was before all digital.
Mhm.
That's what I think helped make movie stars because movies don't look like the way movies used to.
No. No, they don't.
Due to technology, as well as CGI and like now, there's programs for color timing and stuff like that. Like there's such a huge chasm of
Mhm.
kind of the visual aspect of film, where it for some reason feels so clinical. Like, film used to actually give way to like something unique, the way it
Mhm.
looked, the way it was photographed. And now it's all color timed and, corrected and cleaned
Right.
up. And yes, it makes for a better looking image, but it almost doesn't feel as memorable.
Right.
Film looked a certain way for a reason, and
Mhm.
digital uses no film. That's the key difference. When you were on a film set and you had to use film, that reel
Mhm.
lasted 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Digital, those cartridges, the devices with the camera, that I think it's like
Mhm.
3, 4 days of storage, if not more.
Yeah.
So we're not even talking about like having to actually go through a film reel and
Right.
develop film. It's like, oh yeah, this is what we shot today.
Mhm.
And you're looking at it on your phone. Like your dailies. If you do dailies, dailies would end up on a phone.
Yeah. And
Just
that's yeah.
so far. That's why film
It is.
That's why film doesn't have the mystique it does. That's why movie stars don't exist. That's why people like Hackman we'll never see another one.
No.
We just don't have those. And even more so, it kind of lends credence with we just had a Super Bowl and you have them reenacting like characters
Mhm.
that were iconic in movies, and you fast forward 20 years and they made a quick buck on a commercial. And it's
Yeah.
like, are you kidding me? Like a couple years ago, they brought back the Big Lebowski for like a beer commercial, and it's like, he never drank beer. Like they actually had Jeff Bridges and the whole getup. It's just your
Weird to do
yeah,
that.
yeah. More than anything, it just reminds us. I mean, that's why I don't watch a lot of new stuff unless I'm
Mhm.
really in for it. Like watching like Severance or
Yeah.
Yellow Jackets. Like if I'm not like really held into this,
Right.
I ain't fucking watching it. I'd rather go watch fucking Superman or The Firm with
Mhm.
Hackman. Like I'd rather revisit a time where that was a movie star. Going to a
Right.
cinema meant leaving one world and coming into another.
Mhm.
Not like now
Yeah,
where
that's
they're fucking around on their phones and it's like you're not home, motherfucker.
yeah,
They tell
that's
people like, "Oh, don't look," and it's like, "Oh, don't look at your phone." The more they tell people not to look at phones, the more they look at fucking phones.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like we're trained. We're
Well,
trained.
for a lot
That's
of
all we
people,
do.
this is life.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know anything else outside of that.
No. Nope.
And
Nope.
let's be honest. It's pretty sad.
Yeah, it is. I
Like
mean,
when you stop
you
and break
know,
it down, it's pretty sad.
yeah. Kids just don't go outside and play anymore. You know,
Nope.
like I remember you know, it's almost like I feel that like my generation or maybe those that were born a few years after me, it's like that was like the last of the kids that actually like went outside and played because, you know, after that point you just had the internet and TV, you know what I mean? And it was just like readily just there. So,
Yeah. Yeah, different time. And
yeah,
you know,
very different.
I hope that I mean, it's not like Hackman's legacy is going anywhere, but I don't think people appreciate film and movie stars the way they used to.
No.
I don't think it translates the way it used to.
Mhm. I
And
agree.
you know, it's people like us who get kind of the assignment. For others, it's like, yeah, we'll look back at it, but we're going to do this. And it's like, okay, well, that's fine. But now you understand why film used to be taken seriously. Like the Oscars. The Oscars used to be taken seriously. Like that was a big
Yeah.
fucking deal. Like 70 million people used to watch that shit in one night.
Yeah.
Now
Dude,
they get like 25 million.
yeah, I can't even remember the last time I watched it, honestly.
Uh, for me, there's just not a lot there.
Mhm.
There's just it's definitely not what it used to be.
Yeah.
There's just
I did
not.
like Enora though. I'm glad Enora won. I
I
did
am
like
looking
that.
forward to seeing that. Hopefully, I get to watch that maybe this week coming up.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
yeah,
she was really good in it. She was really good.
I love her Boston accent.
Yeah, no, she did good with that. She
She got
definitely
fucking
did good
Boston
with that.
accent. That fucking Tom Brady, fucking wicked awesome.
Mhm. Mhm.
So to Gene Hackman,
Yes.
like, yeah, that guy was. I mean, for so many of us, that guy made up a lot of our upbringing and our childhood. And
Mhm.
you know, regardless of age, and anytime you lose a legend, like for me, David Lynch, I fucking cried. I was like,
Mhm.
you know, and there's so many things because he was David Lynch, like there were so many things he tried to get off the ground, but because the artistic side of film has really left.
Mhm.
There was just so many things he couldn't get off the ground. Apparently, he was in talks or in the works with Netflix. He was going to do like it was this stop motion claymation sitcom.
Mhm. Oh, wow.
Yeah, done from somebody like David Lynch's perspective. I'm like, sign me up. Like, I may not know what's gonna happen, or be able to
Mhm.
keep up, but I'm there for it. Like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely at that point.
Oh,
Oh, shit.
Gene, we miss you, sir.
Yes.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. Movie
Um,
stars, we really don't have them the way we used to.
no.
Nope.
No, we don't. We definitely don't. So now for the next one,
Yes.
I I think I told you that I do have Steel Magnolias here
Fuck yeah.
ready for our commentary for that one.
Fuck yes. I can't
There
wait.
most likely will be tears shed during this commentary, I'm
Oh, yeah,
sure.
this was one of my mother's favorite movies, like, I'm gonna fucking lose my biscuit.
Yes, well, that's up to like whenever you'd like to do it. We can, if you want to do Thursday, Saturday, you know, we'll work it in there, whatever works.
Okay. I'm having I'm having thoughts. I
Yes.
can do either Tuesday or Thursday, but that's your call, we can figure that out, but yes, and I already have it queued up to rewatch for
Mm-hmm.
the assignment,
Ah.
So yes.
Oh, you're gonna watch it. Oh, you're gonna watch it beforehand too.
Oh fuck yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. I haven't seen it in about 2
yes.
years.
Yeah, it's been a while for me too, so I probably will revisit it again just to refresh myself and be ready so we can speak on it and all that
Yeah.
good stuff. Well,
Forget
let's if you can do Thursday, then let's shoot for Thursday.
Let's
If you
do
can do
Thursday.
that. But so we'll do that.
Steel
And
Magnolia Thursday.
yes, and for everyone watching, that will be a Rumble exclusive because Rumble's the only place we can do commentaries like that and not and I'm gonna try to get the layout fixed so we don't have Steel Magnolias in a little box like Halloween 4 was last time. I like I'm looking at the layouts here and like dude, I don't like see like I push this and this makes you big and me small. I want see what I want is I want the movie to be you and I want us to be me.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to accomplish here. I'll even go with oh that doesn't work. I don't like that one. Ugh. Um it's that's too close. Um I just like even if I could have it where it's like a split screen and the movie's like in your square and we're over here in smaller squares, I'll take that.
Right.
You know, it's just it's going to be a lot of trial and error this week to try to get this figured out, but I'll get it figured out.
Oh
Just
yeah,
like
I'm excited.
streaming to TikTok. That's a
Hell yeah.
nightmare and a half in itself, but yeah. Dude, I was ready to like break
About
my
to throw some
laptop
shit. You're like,
today.
fuck this.
Dude, because TikTok for it's like they say, so you set up the live through through the app on your phone. So I did that.
Mhm.
And then it's like you can go live starting 10 minutes before your scheduled time. So I was like, okay. So yeah, cuz the show with Amy earlier today. I go and I set that up on TikTok and I'm like, "All right, we're going to do this." So before I go into EV Mux, like before I go into the studio, I open up TikTok on the computer as it's said to do, and I click go live now. Instead of giving me a stream key and stream URL to input into fucking EVMux, it takes me into YouTube Studio and it starts to take me to go live. Like it starts to send me like live where you
Wow.
just see my fucking face and I'm just like, "No,
Hey
I don't
guys.
want to see my face." Yeah, exactly. I was sitting on the shitter the other day, experimenting with it, and I started to go live from fucking the toilet, and I'm like, "No, we're not doing this.
It's not that kind of party.
No, we're not. Nope, not doing it. Not
Uh,
doing it." So yeah, so hopefully I can get that fucking figured out too, because I really want to get us like streaming on TikTok. I think that that would really increase
Hell yeah.
engagement and shit too. So we'll see, but another banger of an episode, sir.
Indeed. I had a blast with this one and everybody chiming in. Amy, Morgan, Nick, thank you all so much. Whoever else was there and wasn't chiming in going, what the fuck? I mean, we live for that shit. So
Yes, yes,
that's that's how we do.
yeah. But join us Thursday. I mean, that's gonna be
Oh,
wow.
I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. But
Yeah, that one's gonna be fun
hmm
and interesting.
yes, oh, most definitely, most definitely. Well, I guess until then, if you don't have any closing thoughts, we will
No, I am pooped
wrap.
and my ass is numb.
Yes, I got off my knees. Well, I'm sure you could tell I got
Yeah,
off
you
my knees
did.
uh, about 3 hours in. I was like, "Nope, my knees can't," or maybe it was a little bit maybe it was 2.5 hours. I was like, "Nope, my knees can't take it anymore." So,
Oh yeah,
um,
my butt is numb.
yes. Well, you can stand and I'll stand and we'll prepare for Thursday, but until then, um, I don't know. Close it, Theo. I can't think of anything to say.
Thank you guys so much for chiming in. Appreciate you. Um, I was gonna say I don't have much wisdom, so I don't have much words of wisdom.
Yes.
I don't know. Let me end with wipe front to back. And
Yes. That is
if you don't, like, did you want pink eye? Because that's how you get pink eye
mhm.
and ants.
Yeah, I concur. I concur. So, all
Thank
right.
you, Salt Lake City. Good night.